Tough. Yeah. I genuinely forgot about it. And what's funny is I was literally talking about it. Yeah, I forgot about it, man. Bless you. You know what's so crazy too?
Let me hear it.
Track in your YouTube player.
They're letting
YouTube
streamers
welcomes you to the
stream the
following
game.
presentation of the National Football League.
Yo.
They're letting streamers stream the game.
Good amount of people, one would say, I think. I appreciate y'all. This is crazy. Let's be honest.
Like they're
You gotta take care of the football, you know. Taking care of the football is so important, especially in these early games.
277,000 people. More than speed, bro.
That's what the guys gonna battle, you know. We got all guys all across the offensive line that want to make a statement about who they are. They didn't end the season last year the way they wanted to, and so they're excited about this opportunity right now.
Jordan, appreciate the membership. Love you.
74 plus 277 plus 37. I don't know how many of them. It is nearly.
Here we go.
It's nearly half a million. Yeah, it's nearly half a million watching alongside them. And that's not the main stream. The main stream is right here. This is the main stream.
Team, 10-yard penalty, first down.
It's Carl Sheffers with the first penalty of the night. And that is a 42-yard return being wiped out on the holding call.
Let me see something real quick. Did they cut the viewers out?
2 more games left till he turns 30 years.
I don't know if they cut the out. I can't see the viewers, but bro, at bare minimum, not gonna hold you, bro. Bro, at bare minimum, there's probably on streaming alone, it's probably north of 2 mil. It's 5.9 right now. Oh my. Yeah, the NBA is so behind. Shout out to the NFL. Shout out to the NFL. All right. I don't watch NFL, not like I used to. However, and let me try to get the okay. I'm gonna make this a quick stream because I do want to just see. I do want to. Yeah, the quality is great too. Yeah. Okay. The reason why we're here, and actually, I wonder if I don't think it's actually gonna take down the what you call it either. Hold on.
Goes behind the scenes, right? So typically, historically, what I am told is that the small market team that is most frustrated by the fact that you can have these, again, uber wealthy. This is like a new generation of just owners, by the way, right? You got to be so rich to own a team now. And Balmer is the richest by far. And the team that is most frustrated by the ways in which this class of owners throws their wealth around, right? Giant front offices, private money to build stadiums, which, by the way, is admirable by Ballmer, all that, Intuit Dome, 100% personal private money, not public money. The team that's most frustrated by that stuff typically is the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the Thunder, you may recall, is not merely the champions of the last NBA season, but the champions who won their championship because of the deal for Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. That's how they got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. That's how they got a bunch of those picks, right? So what do they do? Can they win twice? Can they win that trade twice? Is a thought that crosses through my mind. And I find that one also to be intriguing and quite.
Why we are here today. Some very interesting development stories happening with everything that's going on. And whoa. NFL Street Reborn download. I ain't gonna lie, I'm very ballsy for just fucking clicking this shit and then going onwards. A ballsy move by me. But apparently, I saw Dom.
Boing. Oh, you fucked up.
Interesting. My mic is low. Hold on, let me see something. Oh, it is a little low. All right. Very, very interesting. All right. So why are we here? There's been some new development stories that's happening with the whole Kawhi Leonard situation that has put us in a bit of a predicament. Unfortunately, the NFL game is going on right now, but I still deem it necessary to at least scan through what's going on at the Steve Ballmer interview. Also, watch Mark Cuban's interview or podcast with Pablo, which is a little bit longer. And then some of the more updated events that have occurred with a little bit more information that Pablo has cross-referenced and now is saying it is indeed true. I think it's probably a little bit smarter that we start with that first, just in case people are unaware of where exactly this information is coming from. So, no, this is actually the podcast. Here it is. It's somewhere on here where Pablo basically confirms that. Here it is. Hi PTFO, Pablo Torre finds out. Can now confirm that Aspiration gave Kawhi a secret $20 million side deal, as first reported by Boston Sports Journalism, which is BSJ. Combined with Kawhi's secret $28 million no-show endorsement deal, that's $48 million. Now, where exactly did this come from? My mic is low? Oh, okay. Because KB saying, okay, cool. Here it is. So, shout out to the Boston Sports Journal, BSJ. Did some really good work. They're now adding on to what exactly is going on. I've read over this a little bit, so I'm going to kind of skip through some of the non-important parts that are kind of just going over the other things that have already been outlined. But the NBA is investigating. Let me make this a little bigger. BSJ exclusive Kawhi Leonard endorsement deal that triggered NBA investigation was actually worth $48 million. The NBA is investigating potential salary cap circumvention by the Los Angeles Clippers through a series of transactions between owner Steve Ballmer, Kawhi Leonard, and a company named Aspiration, which has since filed a Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The podcast Pablo Torre Finds Out was the first to report on this story. This kind of just goes through the details and everything that, people talk about. However, where things are a little bit more interesting is, I want to say right here. At the time of Leonard's deal, Aspiration was an up-and-coming startup that had just received a $250 million investment from Oak Tree Capital Management. The multi-million-dollar deal including the one with the Red Sox. But Leonard's deal was a curious one. A source within the company told BSJ, according to our source, none of the high-power executives were consulted about the massive $28 million endorsement deal Leonard signed. So that's one. A $20 million endorsement deal is not being consulted by high-ranking executives. Crazy. And Cherney, who is the person who signed off on Kawhi's contract, never presented the deal to Aspiration's board of directors. Yikes. BSJ has learned the deal was presented to the executive team as is, with no opportunity for further analysis. Typically, the chief financial officer would have run an analysis on the return of investment. The chief legal officer would have negotiated the contract, and the chief marketing officer would have developed the branding synergy. According to insiders at Aspiration, the team was never given the opportunity to perform any of these tasks. Had they followed through typical procedures, BSJ has been told they would have objected to the deal. Cherney, again, the guy who signed off on the deal, who served as a CEO, signed the deal against the wishes of his management team, who saw it as poor use of cash resources. That's a yikes. That's a yikes. That's a yikes. The deal was characterized as a no-show job on Pablo Torre's Find Out podcast. Leonard did not appear in any promotional material as others endorsers did, but sources tell BSJ that the marketing team and broader management team, excluding Cherney, saw no brand synergy with Leonard and chose not to use his services. Interesting. They instead preferred to partner with climate-focused influencers. Very, very interesting. So I guess that potentially could out Kawhi. There's a possibility that he may have given them photos or lended the opportunity to give his services, but they decided to decline any of his services. They just decided not to use his service. So that potentially could be on the table. Then it continues to say that the $28 million deal has to be paid quarterly installments over 4 years, but it was not the only compensation Leonard received. According to high-level sources, Leonard also cut a side deal with Aspiration to receive an additional $20 million in company stock. The stock was to be paid out of Sandberg's personal holding in the company over 4 years. Sandberg is the other gentleman who actually pled guilty to the wire fraud. That brought the total of promised compensation to Leonard to $48 million. Around the same time as Leonard's deal, Aspiration was going through its round of fundraising. They had raised approximately $600 million, including the previously mentioned $250 million from Oak Tree Capital Management. Ballmer is a part of this management team. The number also included a $50 million investment from Balmer. So there you go. I just realized that. That's Balmer was basically a fifth of Balmer individually was a fifth of this. Wow. That's actually crazy. The investment had been characterized to BSJ as having been made with light to no diligence. Wow. Balmer just handing out 50 mil with light to no diligence. Jesus Christ. Think of it as getting a commitment to Shark Tank after only a couple of questions. The commitment from Balmer was also curious as he paid a higher price for his shares than others. Nigga, what? The commitment from Balmer was also curious as he paid a higher price for his shares than others. Why is this nigga paying a higher? This nigga paid a higher price for his shares? The Oak Tree commitment to Aspiration came at a $10 a share evaluation, but Balmer paid a premium of $11 per share, raising his overall investment to $50 million. Typically, an investor of Balmer's caliber would have been wooed with a discounted share price, so the company could trot out to the investment of major players. Not only that, Balmer would be intelligent enough to negotiate a lower price. Balmer, god damn, bro. This is crazy. Balmer would never sign something at a higher price point unless he didn't know what everybody else was receiving. But if he's a part of Oak Tree, if he's investing alongside everyone else in Oak Tree Capital Management, he understands where everybody else shares standpoint in terms of an evaluation. So why would he pay higher of said evaluation? Oh, man, this is nasty. At this point, the $48 million commitment by Aspiration to Leonard and Balmer's $50 million investment stand as two separate transactions. Yes, allegedly, technically. The league is currently investigating whether there is a connection that circumvented salary cap rules. If there is a finding of wrongdoing, it would not be the first violation from Balmer and the Clippers. They were fined $250,000 in 2015 for offering DeAndre Jordan unauthorized endorsement opportunities. This is the part of the story that I am actually floored. People are not bringing up enough. Like, this is, oh, I am reading too well. My bad. I gotta dumb it down. You're right, Fury. My bad. This is the thing that I don't understand how people are like getting away with. This idea that Balmer's too smart to do something this dumb, but he's already done it before. He's done it already. He's too smart to allow himself to get caught this easy. Bro, he's dumb enough to get caught by handing over, it was a Lexus deal endorsement to DeAndre Jordan. He got caught trying to funnel money through Lexus to DeAndre Jordan. What the fuck are we doing? So that right there is the additional information that's important. It actually is a $48 million, which then means it's actually closer to the endorsement that the endorsement deal is much closer to the investment that Balmer made. I didn't know, however, that Balmer, for whatever reason, didn't negotiate himself a better price and should have got a discount, a significant one, especially if you believe in this company so much so. Why would you not want a significantly lower price point so that your $50 million can get you more shares? Why are you paying at a premium? That makes no sense at all. And I also did not know that the person who signed Kawhi's contract went around high executives in the company while also not going through any processes and effectively presented the endorsement deal to these people as this is what it is. You don't need to look at it. Don't even look at it. Don't look at it. Don't go through it. None of that. But everyone in the company has a feeling that this is a bad way of us utilizing money. So much so that they also agree that they're not going to use Kawhi because it doesn't make any sense for Kawhi to be a part of this. So that means that there's only 2 people at most within the company that agrees, allegedly, Kawhi was a smart decision to bring along through Aspiration. Only 2 people, one of which direct connections to Ballmer through his Harvard alumni in Sandberg, the one that also pled guilty, and Charney, or however you pronounce his name, the one who signed Kawhi's contract. Those are the only 2. And in that, what we just read, they circumvented every other high-level decision maker in the company to make sure that this got done. And then when it was already finalized, just sat there and said, it is what it is, don't look through it, and we're gonna pay Kawhi. So, now that that is out the way, Balmer decided for whatever reason, and I'm gonna say this as well, I don't think a lot of people thoroughly understand or comprehend how much money Balmer makes and has, but he doesn't care. He does not care. He genuinely doesn't care. If you think that Balmer cares about a $250,000 fine, a $500,000 fine, he doesn't care. He just doesn't. And so I'm getting tired of people sitting here saying, well, he's not that dumb. I actually believe there's a really good chance that Balmer, if he did this allegedly, that he just weighed his risk. Well, am I willing to put at jeopardy a couple of draft picks and getting a few fines over the possibility of legitimizing my franchise by getting Kawhi Leonard? Yes, I believe he may have done that, especially when the fines are only a few $100,000 to one of the top 5 to 6 richest men on the face of the planet. Balmer is one of the wealthiest people this planet has ever seen. He does not give a fuck. And I think another aspect that people need to understand is that when you have that level of wealth and you are establishing yourself in this type of space enough, you're getting to the point where you're looking at other millionaires and you're basically saying, I could drop my nuts on your face. I don't care. I don't care. There's nothing that you all can do to me that allows me to actually give a fuck. I have enough money to tell all you niggas that you're my son. I kiss you on my forehead. You're my son now. I give you all the, I don't give a fuck. That shit that you be sitting there sweating over, I don't care. Which is why when you get to that level of financial stability and excellence, you give so little fuck that you would actually sit down with ESPN a day after the news broke and arrogantly try to make yourself seem like someone who I just don't know any better.
On Wednesday, podcaster Pablo Torre published a report that the Clippers circumvented the NBA salary cap because Kawhi Leonard had a no-show contract with a company that Clippers owner Steve Ballmer was an investor in. Steve, thanks for joining us to discuss all of this.
I really appreciate you giving me a chance. I look forward to it. Up front, I want to say one thing very clearly. We, the Clippers, have abided by the salary cap circumvention rules because that's the right thing to do. And we have done that. I happen, for what it's worth, to think it's a very important rule in terms of promoting competitiveness and equal playing field across the league. But whether I agreed with it or not, it's the rule. And we've absolutely abided by that.
So how do you define that?
Be very mindful that the nigga has already, he has already violated this rule before. Like, we know you don't give a fuck about the rule because you already violated, nigga. We know you don't care about it. You've already violated it. At bare minimum once and got caught for it. We know you don't give a fuck about the rule.
Rule against salary cap circumvention.
Well, there's obviously writing in the league rule book on this, but I can make it really simple. We cannot pay a player anything beyond what's in his standard player contract, and we cannot cause anybody else to pay the player what's beyond their standard contract. And that would include, for example, sponsors, endorsers. That is verboten. We can't do that, and we didn't, certainly in this instance. I mean, we can have sponsors. The players can do endorsement contracts. We can do sponsorship deals with the same companies that they do endorsement contracts. We cannot have any involvement in their negotiation with the companies who sponsor them. We didn't in this case, and we never have.
Steve, in your initial response to the podcast from Pablo Torre, you guys said that these allegations are provably false. So how do you prove that?
As a sidebar, they put out another statement after more information has come out, and they have redacted the provably false part of the statement. They've now removed that.
Well, if you start and think, let's pick up from the point about what the rules are. You say, okay, we know what the rules are. Was there an exception made in terms of our relationship with Aspiration? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is a company that I got to know, frankly, through them approaching us about a sponsorship deal. My family and I were super keen to do work to stem climate change. We think that's an important thing. I was in the process of even changing the design of Intuit Dome so that we could be carbon neutral. And then we meet this company that focuses in on an aspect of carbon neutrality. To me, it seemed like a match, kind of made in heaven, if you will. And then they offered us an unbelievable sum of money, $330 million. That by itself, one of the biggest sponsorship deals ever done. And it wasn't naming rights. We had turned them down on the naming rights deal because we liked Intuit, blah, 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 blah. But they did offer even more money. So we had a fantastic deal with a company that fit with stuff we care about personally. And because I was enthusiastic, I read their business plan. Remember, they defrauded me. They defrauded many other investors much bigger than me. But I read the business plan and said, hey, this makes sense to support them, to support us. We made an investment in the company.
Okay, let's stop for a second. Balmer coming out and claiming that he read the plan is crazy. Also, Balmer having some form of experience and sitting there saying that they were throwing large lump sum of money at them. Be very mindful when this is starting off. Aspiration is a startup company. You're telling me nothing went off in your mind, nothing triggered to you that a startup company was able to throw even more money at you, more than potentially what the Intuit was going to give you, to have the branding name on the arena? Is that what you're saying? You're saying that a startup company came to you and the startup company was willingly throwing around $300 million and that it never triggered to you like, oh man, really?
So all fine. I had no control over this company. That is important, actually, under the salary cap rules. I owned less than 3% of the company. There were investors who put in a lot more money than I did. I had no board seat. I had no control. Heck, it was a fraudulent company. It's possible nobody had any control. And now you look back and say, could I believe anything they said? Could their employees have been believing anything they said? I don't know. But at the time, it was an exciting deal for us to go do. Now, we had already signed our deal with Kawhi Leonard. We signed that in August of 21. It was a 4-year deal, 4th year at his option. It was the most that we could pay him. That was the most we could do under the rules, if you will. I've been excited about that, even though we knew Kawhi had to rehab a year from a torn ACL. So, kind of okay, this is going to work. This is really going to work, and it did. All done. I remember where I was. We're very excited. That would have been August. In September, we got the deal done for sponsorship and investment. We announced that. And at that time, we hadn't even introduced, Aspiration hadn't asked, or we hadn't introduced for sure, Kawhi to Aspiration. We were done. They were done. We were done with Kawhi. We were done with Aspiration. The deals were all locked and loaded. Then they did request to be introduced to Kawhi. Under the rules, we can introduce our sponsors to our athletes. We just can't be involved. We made an introduction. That was in early November, well past when all of this happens.
Okay, this is where, I don't know, like the arrogance of him to come out here and say this. Even if I give him the benefit of the doubt, it's just so flagrantly stupid to come out here and tell this timeline of when you when you actually did the introduction. It is just so flagrantly dumb to do that. I'm actually floored. I'm so flabbergasted that he actually came out and said that. For those who don't understand why that's crazy, it wasn't like we did our job, they did their job, and we're done. We're done already with everything. And and at that time, it was just so long ago. He's talking about within a matter of months. September is when they are sending money over, the transaction of $50 million being sent over. And this is in the podcast. And now he's saying in November is when they made the introduction. And he's saying the beginning of November. So he's saying 2 months is this long period of time. It's not. It's a 2-month period, bro. The second thing why I am just floored he said this is because in November is when Kawhi made the LLC. Kawhi made the LLC in November. So you're telling me you introduced Kawhi to Aspiration. You did the introduction in the beginning of November. And by the end of November, they had already built out the framework of a contract that was so large that Kawhi deemed it necessary to go make an LLC? Because if Kawhi was just getting paid a one-time deal of, hey, let's just say $500,000, $700,000, $1 million, $2 million, then he probably wouldn't go create an LLC because it doesn't make any sense to create a whole LLC for a one-time payment. You would create an LLC because you already know money will be, and a lot of money will functionally be flowing through there, and so you want to protect yourself while also making some of that money write-offable so you can maximize the amount of money that you can make. That's the reason why you would just generate a new corporation. So you're telling me that you introduced them to Kawhi in the beginning of November, and within like a matter of 2 to 3 weeks, the foundation of a $28 million contract where he was going to get paid $7 million quarterly was already set in place enough for him to feel confident to go make a whole new LLC? Do y'all hear how fucking crazy that is? $28 million to an entity that is an upstart, and you feel so compelled and guaranteed that this money is going to hit your bank account that you deem it necessary to go make an LLC? That is fucking ridiculous. That's crazy. That's crazy. Bro, it takes, I want y'all to know, bro, it takes sometimes months to negotiate contracts. Even to where I'm at in life, I've never been able, unless it's just like some standard deal, but this wasn't one. $28 million is not a standard endorsement deal, especially for whatever they were asking out of Kawhi. You're telling me they were able to functionally piece together the foundations at least of a $28 million deal and have the negotiations being done and everything is agreed upon within 2 to 3 weeks? That's like, come on. Come on, bro. Come on.
We had a chance recently to go through all of our relations with Aspiration. This is where you get to kind of how you prove this stuff. We, as a part of our cooperation with the Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission, we had produced text, emails. We'd already gone through all this stuff because it was part of document production in their investigations. And we even found the email that makes the first introduction. It was early November. I won't remember the exact date. So where could any of this circumvention have happened? It didn't. It couldn't have. The introduction got made, and then they were off to the races on their own. We weren't involved. I eventually learned that they had reached a deal. I have no idea what the deal was.
So, but you see how this looks to the average fan, right? You're invested in the company. It's $50 million as your investment. You're part of the biggest raise that they have as part of the whole building of that company. Then your star player gets a contract for $28 million. He's not required to do anything as part of that contract. He doesn't actually do anything to promote their company. And he signs an extension with you guys right in and around the same time. Like, you can see it looks like what it looks like.
Let's talk to the fan. We signed that deal with Kawhi before any of this, before Kawhi even knows these people. We've signed our deal. That's high integrity. We made our deal with Aspiration. Literally, I had no control over the company. Literally, even when I invested, I think there was somebody who put in 6 times as much money as I did. No control. And that's okay. The average fan should understand that. And they went off and made a deal. I don't know what the deal is. I know what the reports are with the speculation. I don't know what the deal is or was. And frankly, I can't even tell you whether it's this much different, that much different, or not different at all from some of the other endorsement contracts that athletes do. In terms of amount, I don't know. I actually don't know the amounts of most endorsement deals. But when you look at Forbes magazine and they talk about the highest paid athletes, many of those top athletes, as Kawhi was a top athlete, is a top athlete, you read those things and they say they make up more off endorsements than they do their, very large salaries. So,
okay, let's stop again. The nigga is talking. The thing that really bothers me, the thing that really bothers me is this idea of like, I don't know. I don't know what endorsements are. Again, and this is where Ramona should be pushing back. Well, you at least have to know the ballpark of what a normal endorsement is, because you threw some money towards DeAndre Jordan with the Lexus endorsement deal. So you have to know in some regards what it is, but you didn't do that. That's the thing that bothers me. Secondly, Steve Ballmer just being so obtuse about like, I just don't know. I don't know. I just don't know if it's close to the amount, if it's a large sum of money. I just don't know. I don't know what endorsement deals are. To be fair, there may be some truth behind, he may not know like Nike endorsement deals. But again, if you were able to be a part of or have some awareness of connection of the DeAndre Jordan endorsement deal from Lexus that you all were attempting to serve, then you have to know some capacity of where these numbers are at. Like, you would have to know.
I don't know what to expect, but I think the average fan may not either. But we did things by the book, and I don't know what those deals should look like, nor do I know what this one looked like specifically.
So why do you think they gave him that much money?
Let me just repeat, I don't know how much money they gave him.
Well, in the court documents and in Pablo's podcast, they report it was $28 million.
Pablo's podcast, I don't know anything about the court documents on this. I haven't seen them and I don't know. I'm not trying to be, I don't know. I really don't know. But the speculation is what it is. And why did they do that?
It's a lot of money. I mean, $28 million, $7 million a year is a lot of money for a guy that you didn't actually require to do anything.
I don't know why they did what they did, and I don't know how different it is. I really don't. And frankly, any speculation would be crazy. These were guys who committed fraud. How would I be able? Look, they conned me.
You're one of the richest men in America.
They conned me. I made an investment in these guys thinking it was on the up and up, and they conned me. At this stage, I have no ability to predict why they might have done anything they did, let alone the specific contract with Kawhi.
I mean, you're one of the richest men in America. You've obviously done very well in your career.
I love when the nigga just be like, oh, they conned me. They conned me. Got the salmon, mashed potatoes, and broccoli. Fuck, nigga. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Career in business, like you didn't smell anything wrong with the company, you didn't see anything wrong, like you obviously reviewed the financials before you got involved with the business proposal.
I reviewed, my staff reviewed primarily fraudulent financials. Now, should I have sniffed it out? Maybe. I feel embarrassed and kind of silly that I didn't sniff it out, but I didn't. I made the investment. A lot of other smart investors didn't sniff it out either. It's also true I've made a bunch of bad business deals and investments in my life, and I've made some good ones. This was fraud and a bad investment, and I'm embarrassed by that.
Yeah. When you signed Kawhi in 2019, the NBA had an investigation that his uncle, Dennis Robertson, asked for extra benefits, whether it be use of a plane, a house, guaranteed endorsement opportunities. And at the end of that investigation, you were cleared of wrongdoing, but they left open by saying if any new information comes to light, they would reopen that. So since 2019, has Dennis Robertson asked you for any other benefits that would be in violation of the league rules?
They know the rules. They, meaning Kawhi and his representatives, including his uncle. We know the rules. And if anything's not clear, we remind ourselves what the rules are. And we make absolutely clear we're going to abide by those rules. And they understand them as well. And it's important for them to abide by them, which they have.
So you were...
Let's listen to that question again. Because the question wasn't, do you know the rules? And does Kawhi and them know the rules? Do both of y'all say the rule? Do y'all know the rules? It was a yes or no question.
Has Dennis Robertson asked you for any other benefits that would be in violation of the league rules?
They know the rules. They, meaning Kawhi and his representatives, including his uncle. We know the rules. And if anything's not clear, we remind ourselves what the rules are. And we make absolutely clear we're going to abide by those rules. And they understand them as well.
Nigga, no one, she didn't ask you, do you know the rules? The question was, has he asked for anything else? That's what the question was. It's a very, like, bro.
What are you looking forward to there?
Well,
bankruptcy case. And you said in your statement you're looking forward to cooperating with the feds. You're looking forward to cooperating with the NBA investigation. Why? What are you looking forward to there?
Well, the Clippers are actually the creditor. It's not on the investment that I am a creditor. It's on what they owed us for the sponsorship deal. And, I just lost my investment. That's what happened there. Why am I looking forward to? It's really important to me to communicate to the NBA ecosystem, but particularly our Clipper fans, that we've been on the up and up. Since the day I bought the team, and the circumstances were definitely tough, we've really emphasized doing things the right way. Doing things the right way, whether it's the way we treat our fans, our players, our staff, the rules, do things the right way. And I want our fans to really understand that they've aligned themselves, that they support an organization that does things the right way. I mean, that's fundamental. We welcome the league investigation.
That's the part that really pissed me off, because Ramona should have just immediately said, well, since you own the Clippers, you've already got caught attempting to circumvent the salary cap. This would be your second time. Like that's such an easy follow-up by saying, well, technically speaking, what you're saying is incorrect because under your ownership, the Clippers have already got caught trying to circumvent the salary cap. Already.
We have nothing to hide, and in fact, we're glad for that opportunity also to tell our story because we think it's important, and it's important for me, for our fans to really understand that that we're going to do the right stuff.
Since you signed Kawhi, and really even back to his days in San Antonio, there have been stories like this. There have been a couple of lawsuits filed. There was a lawsuit filed from a man named Johnny Wilkes, who said that he received payments for his influence there. Randy Shelton, a former trainer.
Dismissed by the court.
The league has investigated you guys for some of these allegations. There's been issues with load management with Kawhi Leonard. There's been other issues with him. There's just a lot of smoke, right? And you say it's important to fans and for you to feel like you do it on the up and up, but you can understand why the average fan would go, okay, always with this guy. Like, why is there always these kind of stories with this guy?
I don't know. I think because he is, relatively doesn't speak much, I think there's a lot of mystery around Kawhi. And that may be why, fans kind of tell themselves, create a narrative, if you will. I've had a great relationship with Kawhi. I've gotten to know him a little bit. We sit down a couple times a year and just kind of talk about how the team's doing. The allegations, have not been true. But what's most important to me is we've done the right thing in all those interactions. And Kawhi's business is Kawhi's business. Yeah. But we've always done the right thing.
Have you spoken to Kawhi about any of these allegations since the podcast came out on Wednesday?
I have not, no.
Would you be interested to see what he has to say?
It's really his business with Aspiration. So, I wouldn't ask about it, no.
If this story had come out about another team, another owner, how would you feel about it?
I'd want the league to investigate, take it seriously. Like I said earlier, the salary cap circumvention rules are important to the league, and I'd want the league to investigate.
And just so we're clear, you never directed anyone from Aspiration to do an endorsement deal with Kawhi Leonard?
No, I didn't. And more importantly, we, the Clippers, did not. We didn't give them direction. We made an introduction as is appropriate under the rules. A lot of sponsors do like to, they call it activate, by doing something also with players. We made the introduction, and that was that.
Do you think, given this situation and other teams and the commonplace of stars doing a deal with a team sponsor, do you think the league should maybe look at that practice and maybe adjust that because of the appearance of impropriety or because of situations like this?
That would really be up to league office to think about. I mean, as the rules stand today.
That was actually a really good question. Ramona just basically said, hey, man, this seems a little off, and there's a lot of gray area. Do you think the league should just, address this? That's up to them. They do what they want to do.
It would almost be disrespectful to tell a sponsor, no, I won't introduce you to that player. And it would be disrespectful to go to the player and say, yeah, somebody was interested in meeting you, but I won't tell you. The rule says we're allowed to do that. I think it's the respectful thing, actually, for us to do. And I think the system has worked well, but ultimately that's the NBA's call. How do
you the Board of Governors meeting is in a few days. How do you think your fellow owners are going to approach this?
So that's basically it. I feel as if he told a little bit too much and gave too much of an outline for no reason, for literally no reason. Now, played already done, nigga. Played already done. I ain't gonna lie, that food was good. I can't hold you. I can't hold you. It was some good eats, man. Good eats. W eats in the chat, man. W eats in the chat, man. Nah, there's some good eats. I ain't gonna hold you. Tough. Damn, did you breathe, nigga? Says a starving nigga. You starving over there, nigga. Starving. By yourself. I'm eating right now. Yeah, right, nigga. Just because that food you eating ain't good, that don't mean nothing, bro. All right. Now, here we are, though. I think the biggest part of the whole story is Pablo sat down with Mark Cuban. Got a girl, too, who made it. I mean, that's on you, brother. If the girl that you decide to put in your life it doesn't cook as good as mine, I mean, that's fine. That's not my bad. I mean, that's on you, man. Like shit. Damn. I mean, that's on you, my nigga. Nah, I ain't gonna lie, that food was good. All right. So after all that, probably what I have heard is the craziest interview that came about all this is Mark Cuban deciding to sit down with Pablo. For those who are unaware, and actually before I do this, somebody, where's that? Put that someone put the tweet. Not only Pablo's tweet, the tweet that y'all just showed me about the DeAndre Jordan situation. I might be able to just find everything. Or it might be in Notion, actually. Hold on, let me see. It might be in Notion. Hold on. Hold on, chat. We gotta see if somebody gonna lose their job or not. Hold on. Hold on, chat. Is someone gonna lose their job? Okay. There's that tweet. This tweet. Another tweet. Oh, he got the Mark Cuban tweet. Almost got the fire. Oh no. This isn't the right tweet, chat. No, that's not the right tweet. Fuck. Guess I gotta do somebody's job again. Fuck, man. Okay. So, Mark Cuban got wind of what was going on, and I feel as if like he may have just watched the clips instead of watching the entire thing. But Mark Cuban came out in defense of Steve Ballmer, which I felt was kind of odd because even though, yes, you are a very wealthy man like Balmer and probably would be, best to probably keep him in your pocket. In terms of like how the NBA functions, I would assume you would want Balmer to be at a disadvantage. But coming out this way is kind of crazy. Mark Cuban, on the response of the original podcast from Pablo, I'm on Team Balmer. As much as I wish they circumvented the salary cap, first, Steve isn't that dumb. That alone blew my mind. He's already done it before. Bro. So I don't understand what the fuck. Like, this alone blew me away. I was like, bro, does he not fucking know? And not only does he not know, it happened when the nigga was trying to go on your team. I'm blown away by that. By that alone, I'm floored. Unless these people are so distinct, and this could 100% be the case. These people are so deceptive that they are willing to cape for a nigga who has attempted to do them wrong as well, just to keep open the opportunity to continue to do business with this nigga. Or potentially just cover their own ass as well. But to sit there and say, First Steve isn't that dumb when he literally did it for somebody you were trying to attract to your team is crazy. If he did try to feed Kawhi Leonard money, knowing what was at stake for him personally and his team, do you think he would have let the company go bankrupt, knowing all creditors would be visible to the world? They got scammed by Aspiration. Look, this part right here is what kind of had me going back and forth, and I didn't think he said what I thought he said, but this borderline sounds like, just go down with the ship. Fuck it. You need to commit money laundering to allow the company. You need to commit an actual crime to not get hit with a violation in the NBA. That's what this nigga is basically saying. I was floored, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but then there's a clip that goes out where it genuinely just sounds like he is saying that he should potentially just commit money laundering to keep the company afloat, just so people don't know about what Kawhi's doing. Like, what the fuck? They got scammed by Aspiration, along with many others, crimes for which they pled guilty last week. Scammers do scammy things. They did a $300 million sponsorship deal with the Clippers in 2021. That's a huge deal. So even you know that's a huge deal. The better the team does, the more value the sponsorship has. It actually makes perfect sense that if they stole money from an investor and want the Clippers to succeed, why not give the stolen money to help keep their best players, It's sad that Pablo didn't take time to find out how these scammers pulled off their scam. The idea that default is Balmer is a bad guy is going to backfire on him. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Mark. It sounds as if like you didn't watch the podcast, and I would go as far as to say it's probably not the best that you decided to not watch the podcast. Okay? I think that it's probably best that you didn't watch the podcast. However, that prompted a back and forth between Pablo and Mark to where they decided to come together and sit down and have an hour-long discussion. This should be interesting.
Welcome to Pablo Torre Finds Out. I am Pablo Torre, and today we're going to find out what this sound is.
If I'm wrong on this and you're right, then Steve is not as smart as I think he is.
Or maybe he just don't give a fuck. He doesn't care. Or maybe he has so much money that he actually doesn't care about getting fined. That $250,000, $500,000, $3-4 million to you versus to him is literally the difference between $1 and $10. Maybe that's the difference. That he actually doesn't give a fuck about being fined. That his priority is to attempt to legitimize the franchise by making sure that they can land star players. Maybe that. Tank Jones says, he didn't even watch their follow-up interview at the time he made the first quote tweet earlier. He just assumed Pablo cut it up in a disingenuous way. Jesus. Ain't that correct? What Real Talk said is correct. We are actually closer to Mark Cuban money than Mark Cuban is close to Steve Ballmer. And Mark Cuban is extraordinarily wealthy. And we are still closer to Mark Cuban than he is to Steve Ballmer. Y'all saying, yeah. How much do y'all think Steve Ballmer has? What do y'all think Steve Ballmer's net worth is? Yeah, how much do y'all think Steve Ballmer? Yeah, it's in the 100 billions. This ain't no play money. It's in the hundreds of billions. That nigga is one of the wealthiest people the face of the earth has ever seen.
There he is.
What's up, Balmer? Sorry I don't have a great image here. I just like last second.
This is, by the way, we're recording now. Are you good? We're good to
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, amazing.
Yep, rock and roll.
Thank you for doing this. It's rare that a Twitter interaction results in something like hopefully dialogue.
Yeah, I'm good for dialogue. I don't have a dog in the hunt, right? From a Mavs perspective, I hope they're cheating, right? I mean, there's no reason for me to try to defend Steve Ballmer other than for what I think is right.
What's your relationship like with Steve Ballmer?
Fine. I mean, we get along. Nothing special, nothing over the top, nothing like, hey, we do tons of trade. He's my best friend as an owner. Nothing like that at all.
Yeah. Have you talked to him about this reporting today?
No, not at all. No.
So I just got to jump in here for a second and interrupt Mark Cuban, the former majority owner of the Dallas Mavericks and longtime shark from Shark Tank, to say that if you missed our last episode here, Pablo Torre finds out, the reporting that we're both talking about at the moment has to do with this.
Have y'all seen this information about Kawhi? Shout out to Pablo Torre, man. Crazy journalism.
Nor the Clippers, a Cardinals sailor and
we know
and that they current and beef EA. And so look,
I live in Dallas, Texas.
Dallas Mavericks, Pacific Garden, like
trying to pitch Steve Ballmer. I went up and I just searched in my email to see if they had ever sent me anything, because I figured if they're trying to pitch Steve Ballmer, they're probably trying to pitch me. So they did. In March of 2020, they sent me an email asking if I wanted to get involved.
Who was the guy who sent the email to you?
Let me find it. Hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see. Aspiration.
Mark's going through his phone. He's searching for Aspiration, which is just a delight for me to help Mark Cuban revisit the past.
3/26/2020, from Joe Sandberg with CC to Andre Cherney.
Yeah.
Mark, I co-founded Aspiration, and the Aspiration team wants to move on this with you. I've copied my co-founder. Aspiration has 1.8 million users, raised 200 million of VC, and is focused on delivering socially conscious financial services to everyday Americans. Would you like to connect by phone so we can operationalize ASAP? First, that's really aggressive, right? I mean, it was like the assumption closed, didn't even ask questions. Oh, because this was during right when the pandemic hit and everything had just shut down, right? And people were trying to get money, and we were talking about making money available. And so this guy's coming in saying, we can do it, we're a bank. And I said, well, are you even a real bank? I appreciate your desire to help. And he said, no worries. Building on my prior response, we have a bank partner that is ready to go on this. We have been finalizing a product with them. We could literally do 1 million of these $1,200 loans. First of all, a company that I've never heard of, ready to do over $1 billion in loans. Okay, that was a red flag. And that was the end of it. I never followed up with those guys, and I don't have anything else from any of them going forward.
It's just fascinating.
So you're telling me, bro, Mark Cuban, you are telling me that you were intelligent enough to identify how aggressive they were, and that sent off red flags to you. You're telling me within a matter of a few emails, you were able to sniff out a potential scam. You thought to yourself, wow, this is extremely aggressive. Balmer, and I think this happened before the Balmer interview on ESPN, Balmer also acknowledges that they were aggressively throwing a lot of money, and that didn't raise any red flags to him. He just kept on at it. But within a matter of a few emails, you were like, ooh, this sounds a little too aggressive. Let me step away from this. But Balmer didn't do that. Matter of fact, not only did Balmer put up $50 million, but the nigga paid higher than what everybody else had paid on a per share basis. Does any of that, listen to yourself. How the fuck could you defend somebody when you're saying you yourself with the same company was able to already sniff it out, but now Balmer can't? And it was the same tactic, the same aggressive tactic. Maybe not to the T, but they're aggressively talking about major promises, just throwing around a bunch of money.
To know that he was sniffing around the NBA. Obviously, this is Joe Sandberg, by the way, who August 21st, 2025, this is the DOJ's press release. The headline is, Aspiration Partners co-founder charged and agrees to plead guilty to a $248 million scheme to defraud investors and lenders. And there's yet more, by the way, in his file with the Justice Department. The SEC is also now investigating him. All of this stuff is part of my fascination with the story. I want to get, though, to why we are doing this, because I don't expect everybody to be on Twitter following both of us. They're probably following you. What a disaster it would be for their mental health if they were following our back and forth. But the reason that I reached out to you so explicitly was you do begin your post by saying, I'm on Team Ballmer, period.
Yeah.
And I'll just read you the quote, and then you can help explain what it is that you mean. You wrote, as much as I wish they circumvent...
Okay. Pablo does a really great job. Shout out Pablo. An amazing content creator. Wow.
I'm on Team Balmer, right, is when I go back and I looked, the deal was in 2021, before their arena opened, right? Right when Kawhi signed their new contract, and it's $300 million. When you get a deal of that size with a new category sponsor, the NBA has to approve it. So first of all, the NBA had to have looked into this. But that wasn't, the overwhelming thing. Then they defaulted on that deal, right? They stopped doing it, and Balmer made an announcement at some point in time saying that the deal was not moving forward, and this was several years ago. But that wasn't really the trigger for Team Balmer. The trigger for Team Balmer was in January of 2024, when it was either the SEC or CFTC said that they were under investigation. So the minute Aspiration was under investigation, I guarantee you, in the immortal words of Charles Barkley, I guarantee it, that the NBA took a hard look at it. And not only that, that Balmer, if he did something illicit and under the table and tried to, work around the salary cap, then he's got to be bricks, right? Because at that point in time, he's the dumbest human being on the planet, because he trusted these scammers to do something he knew was against all NBA rules. A, I just don't see that happening. B, the NBA would have found it easily. 3, and this alludes to the Steve Ballmer can't be that dumb thing. I mean, I guess I've been scammed. Everybody's scammable. But in order for this to work, in my opinion, he has to trust that whole company. And at that point in time, he trusted them enough to give them an investment at some level, but I don't see how he would trust that company to keep probably his darkest secret as an NBA owner so that it wouldn't get out. I just don't see in any way, shape, or form that all those things could happen.
So did he not watch? Did he not watch what happened? Did he not watch it? Because their claims is that there was someone who worked for the company that also knew about what was going on, and they used the terminology circumvent the salary cap. So someone had to know about it. And there's also emails about how someone is challenging the legitimacy of the Kawhi Leonard deal. And now we have even more information where it was an ongoing thing that to even get the Kawhi Leonard deal through all the potential passage of high-level decision makers and board of directors at Aspiration, that Charney or Cherney, whatever his name is, basically had to go around them as well and basically put on the table, it is what it is. No one needs to look through this, because if you do, more than likely they would have immediately realized, oh, well, this doesn't make any sense. We should not involve $50 million effectively to Kawhi Leonard. Like, what?
It's fascinating to probe the mind of a former NBA owner about the logic, right? And
I still want 27%, but I'm not the governor yet.
Excuse me, sir.
That's okay. I'm just playing with it. I'm playing with it. It's not that big a deal.
Part owner Cuban. God Emperor. No, I'm kidding. The thing I wanted to ask about, though, as I probe your thinking, right? Because it's fascinating to see how you would approach this dynamic.
Right.
Because I'm thinking, like, well, would it be different as a calculus to you if Steve Ballmer had personally put in like $50 million and was personally helping with the business development of Aspiration with the co-founders of the company? If he was like, doing that sort of a thing where he was personally helping.
I could see.
Steve Ballmer doesn't have the time a day to do shit like that. He doesn't care enough like that.
What I can see happening is, okay, you're going to do a $300 million deal with us. I'll put $50 million in, right? He probably has no idea how, the day-to-day operations, because in the bigger scheme of things, there's just not enough hours in the day to deal with that, right?
Agreed. Steve Ballmer doesn't care enough to. He may care, but $50 million to him is not enough for him to really give a fuck. He doesn't care.
But let's talk about the logic of that, right? Because I think you're making sense. You're making dollars and cents now, right? So there's a $300 million incoming to the Clippers.
Right. Potentially over time, yeah.
Over 23 years, specifically.
Right.
And that's in 2021, in the fall. But then I'm just trying to rack my brain, and I'm like, okay, so if he were to put in $50 million while getting 300 back, Why is that a good business decision? Just for people who don't understand this stuff, why is that a good business deal?
Well, so there's got to be more than one piece to that, right? Because it's not necessarily give 50, get 300, right? First of all, over 23 years, that's a long time. The net present value is the net present value, whatever, right? But if you're looking at it, and again, do you know the date of when he invested the money? I don't.
September of 2021.
Right when.
Nigga, he had it in the video. Did he not watch this? Even I remember enough to know that it happened in September. So like I told you, he invested this money in September. By November, he's saying he was already introducing Kawhi.
They made, so right around the time they made the announcement, right? That they were going to be a partner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he gives 50. Now, what you're suggesting that there's a quid pro quo, right?
I'm suggesting that people have asked the question who used to work for the company, whether there's a quid pro quo.
Of course, yeah, but at the same time, these guys were doing carbon credits. These guys are doing, the ability to offset, his travel, just like I bought carbon credits to offset my travel, right? So he's thinking it's a good cause, right? So that's the other thing that I'm thinking. I'm not thinking that he's saying, okay, these guys are scammers and I know they're scammers, so maybe they'll do a scam for me. That's what I see as implausible. And that part doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I guess what I'm wondering about is if there had to be something else missing for why you give 50, get 300 over 23 years, right? So the math there, again, you do the math.
Well, Kippy, maybe you believed in the business. Maybe you believed in the company.
Sure.
I mean,
I think
just look at Sam Bankman-Fried, right? There's a whole lot of people that believed in him until they didn't. Now, I don't know if that's 50 million big for Steve, small for Steve, in between. I have no idea how he usually invests, but I do know that if he believed in the business of carbon credits and offsets and treat.
I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but 50 million is small to this nigga. Like, come on.
If it works, it works, and if it doesn't, it doesn't.
So is your theory then, because I guess I want to also just introduce something, because people who are not familiar, I'm trying to bring in as big an audience as possible who aren't steeped in the lore of the NBA, right?
Sure.
Steve Ballmer, as he described himself, is of course a hardcore basketball fan. And so are you.
Of course. Yeah.
Like, you two are actually two of the guys I think of when it's like really rich dudes who own teams, who really care about, say, the distance between the toilets and the seats,
For sure.
right? So there is a micromanaging aspect to just
No. You're getting two things. That's not micromanaging, right? That's where we'll diverge again. So I see where you're going. You pay attention to details. If you're paying attention to details as small as how far are the toilets versus, paying attention to any $50 million investment, obviously you're going to pay attention to the details. But no, right? What I said, when I heard him talk about the number of toilets and the distance to toilets, that's just trying to optimize. And so the Ballmer, like I was on the audit committee with Ballmer, and Ballmer was the one guy who looked at numbers, right? Now you may think that's an indictment of him, right? But the reality is he's always trying to optimize. That's the way he thinks. That's the way entrepreneurs think. That's the way I think. How am I going to optimize the experience for fans? And if you're trying to spend $1.2 billion and differentiate your arena, the number of toilets and the distance and time it takes to get to them and your food, etc., is just, a metric that you use to determine, how different you're going to be. I don't think
But couldn't you then also just say the way to optimize bringing some legitimacy to the franchise and trying to bring star power to the Clippers, the way to optimize that is by doing whatever it takes in the process, even if it may potentially mean going around the salary cap? Isn't that what that would mean as well? If I'm trying to optimize my ability to bring in a superstar, then I'm going to do whatever it takes, even if it means I need to break rules in the process. I don't know. And again, he's done it before. And the attempt to optimize keeping talent on the roster, I'm going to promise DeAndre Jordan $250,000 in an endorsement deal through Lexus. He's done that already.
indicative of anything.
I want to take it beyond just the toilets.
Sure.
Because Aspiration was a founding partner of the Intuit Dome, but certainly there are sponsors of a level in which their logo's on the back of the courtside seat, right? Their signage is everywhere.
Right. On the jersey, whatever.
On the jersey patch, exactly right. So is there a level of familiarity with that sponsor that is not quite the same as a lesser sponsor in your experience as the owner of the Mavericks?
Yes and no. Yes, from the perspective of you're shaking their hands and taking pictures, no matter what. You're showing up at an event, no matter what, right? You're doing the things that makes your customers happy, no matter what. You taking it to like, I really put in the effort to know their business? Hell no, right? Because sponsors come and sponsors go. There are some sponsors, like I just went back for the Mavs this week and we honored Coca-Cola and Budweiser and Southwest Airlines. And
but Mark, those are a bit different from the Green Bank Aspiration, those legacy brands that are very
100% different, 100% different, right? But at the same time, it's not that much different in that you're not going to all of a sudden become an expert in their business or even dig into details like you're suggesting.
Now, what if you have?
I think that is fair. The problem with Mark, though, is that if you're telling me that you didn't even have to do digging and there was already red flags that were flying around, I don't understand why he wouldn't do that. I don't understand why he wouldn't do that, or at least have somebody else do that, and be very mindful that he. In the interview that Balmer sat down with Ramona, he had actually acknowledged that he did do some research. Now, again, how much of it probably seems to be not that much, and that is also understandable. I'm not gonna make it seem like every single ass deal that even I do, I'm doing thorough research with them, unless something just crazy kind of pops up, and then I may do a little bit more digging. But I'm not Steve Ballmer, right? However, I have a hard time believing that it's a startup. Again, it's different from a legacy company. If Budweiser came to them, or FanDuel, right, a company that has a foundation that's existed for years, sometimes decades, came and said, we're here to give this aggressive deal of $300 million. Well, I don't really need to question the legitimacy of money that I'm receiving from Budweiser or from FanDuel or from, In-N-Out Burger in LA. Like, I don't really need, because we all know they're a legitimate company. It's cut and dry what they provide. So I don't, that's not the same. It's just not the same.
To invest $50 million of your personal money into it.
I've invested millions of dollars into people I've never met.
Have you invested 50?
Not in people I haven't met, but 10 to 15. On a relative basis, it's about the same.
Point taken. Steve is a lot richer than both of us.
Yes.
But the question I'm asking is, it's not merely some sponsor. It's the thing you sort of need to assess, right? Like, if Steve Ballmer is Mr. Optimization, right? I imagine what he might want to look at, for instance, is like the list of frankly, sources of business that this thing you invest $50 million into might be.
No.
You're suggesting that you would not want to...
He probably has a team that does due diligence. And the NBA has a team that does due diligence because it's a new category. And if the NBA approved it, they're probably going with it. Just like when crypto hit and we got hit, the Heat got hit because of the sponsorship and everybody questioned, crypto.com because of it. The NBA had to approve that category. Does it mean that, everybody looked into the depth of details? No, it doesn't.
I guess what you're saying is FTX happened, and that should give us a sense of how poor the vetting process from the NBA is when it comes to the sponsors that they sign with.
Yes and no, right? So let me just tell you what happens. I invest in a company and they say, Mark, can we put out a quote for the press release and everything? I'm like, go ahead and write it up. I'll approve it. Unless there's something funky about it, I'm like, go for it, right? Half the time, if it's smaller investment, I don't even check. I've got people who do due diligence on these deals, like my Shark Tank deals, due diligence team comes in. Bigger deals, a little bigger team comes in. What do you think? Here's my questions. Get these answers. Do I go into the absolute details? No.
So I want to understand something, though, because when you're saying that Steve Ballmer,
I ain't gonna lie, these niggas, they shitting on us. They basically saying, man, all them concerns you little peasants be having, we don't give a fuck. We don't care. We genuinely don't give a fuck. It just needs to come back and make us some money, and how it gets done, I'm too busy to even give a fuck about it. That's basically what this nigga's saying. To you, you would think that I would give a fuck, but if I can turn my $10 million investment to 40, how it got done, I wasn't there. Just make sure the check is getting cleared, and let's keep it pushing.
Was a guy who, of course, wanted to optimize everything, wanted to recruit the best players and all of that. And you had experience, of course, doing the same thing in your own parallel way. I actually want to take us back to one of my favorite internet stories where I really did come to appreciate you on NBA Twitter as an entity, which was the chair in front of the door. DeAndre Jordan, 2015.
Oh, Pablo brings it up. There's no way this nigga is a way better journalist than everybody else in the fucking field.
In a stunning reversal, free agent NBA center DeAndre Jordan backed out of a commitment to sign with Mark Cuban's Dallas Mavericks. Instead, he's re-signing with Steve Ballmer's Los Angeles Clippers.
Clipper Blake Griffin posted this pic to Twitter as he and teammates helped keep Mavs owner Mark Cuban away and swayed Jordan, their free agent center, to renege on his contract agreement with Dallas.
What I loved about that was it went to the extent of showing how much everyone cared about getting these players. And so I just want to establish that as just a general principle. But you're also saying that Steve Ballmer is not the type of person who would want to bend or break the rules of cap circumvention to get such players.
Because you have to look at the risk reward. You have to look at the risk reward.
So the question I have is, what explains the fact that in that same case of DeAndre Jordan, which of course involved you with the Mavs and Steve Ballmer with the Clippers, why was Steve Ballmer's Clippers team fined $250,000 by the NBA for apparently, reportedly, offering a Lexus endorsement, arranging a Lexus endorsement, according to reporting, to DeAndre Jordan?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even remember that part happening. That part I don't even recall.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
Bro, these niggas must think we're fucking. They genuinely just think that we just don't fucking care. That we're just fucking dumb. You're telling me you just forgot about all that and you forgot about the fines and everything that came about. Be very mindful that Mark Cuban at some capacity was a part of the conversation of how they're going to fine because he's an owner of the he's an owner of the team that's in the league that went on to find this nigga. You're telling me you just forgot about that? Oh, man, I forgot about that. I forgot about that one. I forgot about that. I forgot about that one. Damn. I forgot about that one. Wow. Huh. Am I lagging? Okay. Man, it just can't be.
It did happen, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying it didn't, right? That would have been dumb. Like, look, if I'm wrong on this and you're right, then Steve is not as smart as I think he is.
Well, I'm team bricks, Mark, I guess is what I'm saying here. I'm team.
But he's already done it before. He's done it before. So does that mean he's not as smart as you think that he is already because he's done it before and he got caught already? That's such a cop-out answer. I don't remember, but if he did it, he's dumber than what I thought that he is, while also now acknowledging, or I guess my memory being jogged, that he's already done this before and got caught. What?
Bricks, based on the reporting, right? So I don't want to cut you off because I actually want to know what you're about to say. I just feel like a really smart guy can be so desperate to get a star player that justifies the entire mission of opening a privately funded stadium to compete with the Lakers specifically, who were competing with him. And in fact, when it comes to a bunch of scammers, who maybe he didn't know were scammers in 2021, but clearly saw them as aligned with him on, we're going to help you do what you want, to the point of him helping with business development. The whole idea of, did he have zero idea that these guys that he was dealing with on a day-to-day basis, CCing with the CEO of Intuit, according to emails that we found, is it possible that that guy would have no idea that they were paying $28 million for a no-show job?
Which is another perfect, oh my goodness. It would be one thing if there weren't ongoing emails directly from Steve
to the guy.
This is Steve Ballmer's. Hold on, let me move this. This is Steve Ballmer's email. This isn't some random person that's emailing them. This is Steve Ballmer's email to Joe Sandberg. He is the one who's emailing them and inviting them to games. He's the one who's doing that. This isn't, a representative of the Clippers. No, this is Steve's email. Steve Ballmer's email. He's the one who's doing that. So this argument that like, he's just this guy that's just too busy, that's not involved about anything that's going on. No. In a normal circumstance, I can hear you say that, but there's actual receipts that beyond the September payment that he gave them of the $50 million, he kept emailing them. And he also acknowledged in the Ramona Shelburne interview that he also introduced him. So there's an email trace of them introducing. And in this email, he's saying that they're going to sit down at a basketball game either December 8th or January 11th. So it's clear as day that this isn't a normal relationship. He's actually sitting down with these people, communicating with them, going to games with them.
That guy would have no idea that they were paying $28 million for a no-show job to the guy who was his most valuable employee, while there was also simultaneously in that same timeline a $300 million 23-year contract being struck between the company, Aspiration, and Steve's baby, the Los Angeles Clippers, that also had in the document that we acquired the contractual language outs at every turn for him to not do anything. And in fact, none of it was ever reported until today. You're saying that that's plausible to you?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, look, the thing that happened at the Mavs that I had no idea was happening. And people didn't think that that was marginally feasible because you can't pay attention to everything and every deal that you do.
Why did Kawhi Leonard take...
Yes, that is true. But again, Mark is acting as if something was happening in the Dallas Mavericks organization, and Mark doesn't have like any communication with any of the people that is transpiring with, then yeah, like I can understand that you're busy. And to be fair, I do think Steve Ballmer is a very busy person who may not keep up with the day-to-day ongoings of things that transpired. But that wasn't this relationship. He didn't just sign the contract, took some pictures, and said, all right, cool, let me know when the check clears, and bounce. That's not what happened. He's having ongoing conversations with them. He is setting up game dates to sit down with these people. This is obviously different than the normal scenario. And again, I just feel as if like Mark didn't watch the episode, that he came out and made a stance and didn't watch the fucking episode.
Less money, do you think?
You can't pay attention to everything and every deal that you do.
Why did Kawhi Leonard take less money, do you think?
Maybe he had that deal in hand, and that was his reason. I don't know. I don't know.
Because I have 7 sources that say it was to circumvent the salary cap, plus the documentation that suggests that that's exactly what happened.
Well, the documentation is the contract you're talking about that says if he no longer plays for the Clippers, right?
Yeah, among other things,
Yeah. I mean, I can make the same argument that the scammers benefit as much because of their sponsorship.
Wait, can you explain that one?
So in every huge sponsorship deal, you get tickets, you get appearances, you get all kinds of ancillary shit, right? And the better the team, the more valuable that is, right? All of our sponsors are going to want to have access to Cooper Flag. Everybody wanted access to Luka, no matter what, right? And part of us getting those bigger deals was giving people access. And so the better the team, the better the stars, the better the value of the sponsorship.
But they don't have access to the nigga because he's not doing anything. Mark, he didn't do anything. They don't have access to the nigga because not only did he not do anything, but they wrote the contract to where he actually doesn't have to do anything. So how the fuck is that access to Kawhi when he's contractually not to give them access? How? What he's saying is correct. Yes, it would. Yeah. I can understand the idea that, hey, we're going to draft these contracts up in a way in which it makes sure that you stay on it's only impacts for the Clippers because we are also tied to the Clippers and we want to have some benefit towards it. As a sidebar, I think that in and of itself should be against the CBA, but fuck it. Yes, I understand that. And you get access to the player as well. But in the exact same contract, they're writing it as if like he's not obligated to give them those the access to him. What are we talking about?
So are you in dispute at all that the deal Kawhi signed in that document, as reported, to the extent that you've seen it, that clearly was to circumvent the cap? It's merely that Balmer was not aware of it. That's the argument that you're making then.
Right. So
who would have known about it at the Clippers then?
Who would have known? Well, wait, no, I don't think anybody knows about it necessarily at the Clippers.
Nobody would have known about the fact that Kawhi Leonard...
You're not... So my logic is different than yours. My logic, I'm putting the hat on of Aspiration.
Yes.
And just the Aspiration hat on, right? If I'm paying Kawhi to do something for me, even if it's a no-show Tony Soprano job, right? He's of no value to me in Dallas.
Yeah.
I can take some of that scam money that I just brought in and let me give it to Kawhi in the deal because if Kawhi stays, they're probably going to be better. And if they're better, my sponsorship money is worth even more. There's more value to the scammers to doing this deal than there is to Balmer for doing the Kawhi deal.
And okay, I understand what Mark is saying, but I don't even know if that's like, that shouldn't be legal. But okay, so effectively he's saying they drafted up the contract to make sure that Kawhi is effectively incentivized through the completion of the contract to stay on the Clippers, and through that benefit, it would also aid the valuation of their partnership with the Clippers as well. Okay. Oh, okay, cool. My only question then follows that up is to A, why would it then, on the back end, he's set to get a $20 million payout on the stock points that he's receiving? Because if that is the case, unless you just, I guess it's like a signing bonus for finishing off the the totality of the contract, I could see that happening. But if it's just there for him to stay on the Clippers, why are you then saying we're going to give you $20 million at the end of it all? Why not just have all $50 million of it spread out for as long as you possibly could spread the whole thing out? That doesn't make any sense to me.
So I guess I just want to square the circle here, right? Because the team had a relationship with Aspiration that ended as described in 22-23.
Right.
Yeah, why do only 4 years? That's basically what I'm saying. Why have it stop at 4 years and then say at the end of the 4-year mark, we'll also dump $20 more million once we pay out the stock points that you have? Why would you not just keep it going for as long as you needed to keep it going?
And that started in 21. The Kawhi contract also started in, the LLC was registered and the LLC was named.
Yeah, look at the LLC begins in November 2022. November 22nd, 2021. So again, chat, now that we know that Ballmer is now acknowledging that that he made the initial introduction in the beginning of November, that means that they want us to believe that within a matter of 2 to 3 weeks, that Kawhi knew that he was going to get enough money to go get a functional LLC, to go register an LLC. Kawhi knew he was going to get so much money and going to get paid quarterly that they negotiated the terms, they negotiated how much it was going to be, and the terms and how much it was going to be is to the tune of $28 million, $7 million quarterly over the span of 4 years with $20 million payout at the end of it. All that shit got negotiated within a matter of 2 weeks? Bro, come on, bro.
Very conveniently for my purposes, KL2 Aspire LLC
Right.
in 21.
Pretty stupid, yeah.
I mean, not
Yeah.
the most genius plan by Uncle
No.
Dennis Robertson, admittedly.
Right.
But the point is that all of that stuff was happening simultaneously.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah, please. I just don't understand how the Clippers would have no idea.
Help me with the timeline here.
Yeah.
Because I forget when Uncle Dennis was an issue and him trying to do side deals.
2019, that was after Kawhi won the title with the Raptors. Yeah.
Right. So, and that was a topic at the Board of Governors meetings. I remember that. I just don't remember the years.
Can you explain what that meeting was like, actually? Because I'm fascinated as to how that goes.
Yeah, it was basically, it wasn't specific to Uncle Dennis, but he was an example. It was effectively that you have to have a specific person you're negotiating with. You have to be a registered agent in order for you to be able to agent.
Wow.
And that statement, by the way, you got to be a registered agent to agent, is not a tautology. That's actually something that requires a quick explainer here, I think, about the rules that changed in 2019. Because the Clippers signing of Kawhi Leonard in free agency 2019 sparked a landmark NBA investigation. Multiple teams reportedly complained to the league that Dennis Robertson, Kawhi's uncle, who is not a registered certified agent, had gone directly to league owners to demand sweeteners and perks and hidden endorsement deals to circumvent the salary cap. And this investigation resulted in no proof, apparently, of illicit benefits provided by the Clippers, who got Kawhi Leonard. But what Commissioner Adam Silver did decide to do was increase fines and penalties for teams that negotiated with non-certified agents. He also mandated verification of agent certification at the time of contract negotiations. Call them the Uncle Dennis rules, which were then emphasized in a big and dramatic meeting about cap circumvention with Adam Silver and the NBA's Board of Governors. the reporting is that Uncle Dennis made those requests of Lakers owner Jeannie Buss, quote, and that she made it clear that such perks were illegal and would not be considered.
Yeah, because we talked about it in the Board of Governors, yeah.
Right, so Uncle Dennis went to owners.
Is a badass negotiator, yeah.
So you're saying that he didn't go to Steve Ballmer?
Well, maybe he did, right? But if Balmer had any brains whatsoever, he just laughed at him. And that doesn't mean Uncle Dennis stopped there.
Bro, Mark is an unserious nigga in this chat, bro. He's such an unserious character in this video. He's such an unserious character, bro.
All of which brings us back now to Uncle Dennis, who declined to comment for this episode when we sent him another detailed list of questions. All of this stemming from the fact that he was listed as the designated representative and go-to contact on Aspiration's secret $28 million endorsement deal with his nephew that nobody, not Aspiration, nor the Clippers, nor Kawhi Leonard, ever announced. When it comes to when Uncle Dennis is making calls and he's saying, I need to get paid here, which is what the source told me in the finance department. And others have said as well. He was the guy calling saying, hey, you owe us money. And
wait, Uncle Dennis is making the call, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's in the episode too.
Doesn't that say a lot? Isn't that a red flag to you?
In what way?
The fact that it's Uncle Dennis making those calls, right? It's not even plausible to you that this is a deal between Uncle Dennis and these two guys at the top. That
I think the person who is most likely to have zero idea that he was under an Aspiration contract was Kawhi Leonard.
Look, if your reporting is right and Steve knew, then it's over, right? It's over.
So what do you think? What do you think the punishment is that's fair? If in fact
he's toast. I mean, he's got it's far worse than Joe Smith. Now the difference is just because someone says Steve Ballmer knew doesn't mean he knew.
But what I'm saying is, when Uncle Dennis is calling to say, you owe us the $28 million for the no-show job, in so many words, right? And the sources inside of Aspiration are saying, we were instructed this is the number one priority that we have because Steve Ballmer put $50 million into the company. At the same time, we agreed to pay Kawhi 28. It just feels like as the company is collapsing and the scam is falling apart, the person you might logically attend to, according to the thinking of these sources that I spoke to, the 7 people, is the person who had the most influence over your company among those investors. I just don't see how the Clippers, at some high level, would have no idea.
So let me ask you this, and I don't remember. Yeah. Who was Kawhi's authorized agent?
It was Mitch Frankel.
Okay. What does Mitch Frankel say about all this?
That's a great question. Mitch has not responded to our request for comment. I should spell that out.
And it may well be that he thinks Uncle Dennis is in the middle of it and pulling it off because Uncle Dennis is not supposed to be in the middle of any of this shit, right? Well, I guess maybe for marketing deals. For marketing deals, it could be different.
And so this is where I just got to say quickly that we reached out again, not only to Uncle Dennis Robertson, but also to Kawhi's agent, Mitch Frankel, neither of whom responded before our deadline again. We also reached back out to the Clippers with new questions about what Steve Ballmer and front office executives like Clippers president of basketball operations, Lawrence Frank, might have known about Kawhi's deal with Aspiration and when they might have known it. And on Wednesday night, about 45 minutes after Mark and I finished this conversation, the Clippers released the updated version of the statement they gave us for our last episode. A statement that no longer had the phrase provably false in it anymore, by the way. Now, the team says that it welcomes the NBA investigation, and it reiterates that neither Steve Ballmer nor the Clippers knew about any improper activity by Aspiration until after the government started its investigation. The new statement reads, in part, quote, Steve invested because Aspiration's co-founders presented themselves as committed to doing right by their customers while protecting the environment. Neither Steve nor the Clippers organization had any oversight of Kawhi's independent endorsement agreement with Aspiration. To say otherwise is flat out wrong, end quote. And so I just think it's useful to point out here, as we finally finish the legal disclaimers framing our conversation with Mark Cuban, that the word oversight is not the same word as knowledge. And as for my 7 sources inside of Aspiration, who are the kind of people, by the way, who signed up to work for this company because they actually did care about protecting the environment, to quote the Clipper statement, these people have become key sources in multiple ongoing federal investigations, resulting in the arrest and guilty plea of co-founder Joe Sandberg, whom the U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California has called, quote, nothing more than a self-serving fraudster, end quote, and who has declined to comment to us through an attorney. And so I suppose that at this point, the whole Department of Justice angle does finally bring us back to the rules of the NBA. But now this is where I think the question of what punishment happens here is on a couple of different levels, right? There's
I'm not giving in that he's guilty, that Balmer knew this was going on, right? Again.
Oh, you're still team Balmer.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. You haven't told me anything that makes me think otherwise.
But the contortion that you're making
no. See, I look at the contortion you're making, right? And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Because You're not giving the scammers enough credit. That's the difference between us. You're assuming that Steve Ballmer has all the leverage and all the knowledge and all the awareness, control the circumstances. I'm telling you, if these two guys were good enough scammers to get valuations at $2 billion plus.
But Mark, can I just jump in here to say that we reported the story of the scam, and it's absurd. The scam is absurd. The scam was very simple, actually. And you know what? You reminded me of it because you mentioned FTX. We also did a story about FTX. We talked to Michael Lewis and Zeke Fox, the two authors of the Sam Bankman-Fried books. And my big takeaway was very actually resonant in our reporting on Aspiration. Here are these guys who used sports as a cosign to get credibility as good guys, such that more companies, Meta, the Red Sox, Clippers, these are all that's who Aspiration got. And they got it once they got Steve Ballmer. Okay? So Steve Ballmer putting in 50, right? The question is, why would Steve want to do that? And I think the question I keep on returning to
I get the foundation of your question.
But the scam,
what's the quid pro quo for Steve?
But the scam, in terms of like why I'm not underestimating the scammers, is because what the scammers did was create a bunch of fake LLCs, fake customers, fake letters of intent that Steve Ballmer, by the way, could have assessed if he wanted to. But again, you're telling me rich guys don't need to do that at that level necessarily, even though they're Jersey Patch sponsors. It feels like it's just his responsibility as the greatest investor of the last 20 years, according to the Acquired podcast, to look at the letters of intent that you can get in the documentation, and you Google them and you say 80 to 90% of these are fake.
So this is where we disagree, right? Your presumption.
But I want to leave that. I want to give that to you. I want to give that to you. I want to give that to you because let's say he didn't do the Googles. All I'm saying is, when it comes to why Steve Ballmer decided to do that deal and like what was going through his mind, I don't think it's a very big logical contortion to say he found somebody who would keep a deal for his most important player who he needed to pay above the salary cap to the tune of $28 million secret so successfully that he would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for me. And so the scam here is not simply, man, these guys were real clever. It was also that they were very stupid. They made up these fake letters of intent, fake LLCs. It collapsed within a couple of years. And the whole thing, Mark, as you know, carbon offsets, it was, we're going to plant some trees, but we're not even going to plant them. We're going to broker it. And we're going to charge 5 to 10 times what it costs to plant a tree in the ground.
It was an arbitrage.
Yes, 5 to 10 cents for a...
I do think that I think this is where like Pablo was like giving himself a little bit too much credit. It's not just that you found out about it, because truth of the matter is you may not have found out about it if they didn't file for bankruptcy so soon. I think that there's a possibility he thought he was gonna get away with it because this is only a 4-year time period. Y'all are receiving so much money that at bare minimum y'all should be able to stay afloat for like 4 years, and then once that's done, then bada boom, bada bang, like I can then move out of here. So I don't necessarily thought in terms of, oh well, lucky old me, I stumbled across it, and then that's how we got to this point.
Right?
Yeah.
So that, I mean, it's crazy.
Maybe that's why he invested.
Oh, so by the way, I believe that the end game there was a SPAC in which Steve Ballmer would have had the ability to, at a $2.3 billion valuation.
They did merge with a public company, right? And he would have got, so they probably told Steve, to what you just said, some new information for me, right? What they probably told Steve is, we're going to take this out in the SPAC and you'll get your money back right away when the SPAC goes public.
Yes.
That was exactly part of the plan.
Yes. So yeah, I think that he thought that they were just going to be able to stay alive long enough to become public, and then from there be able to just flow it out as long as they could as a publicly funded and publicly traded company. That's what I thought. This idea, like, oh well, they're luckily I was able to do some digging. I just think that they were just like, oh well, we really only need about 4 or 5 years before we can go public, and at that point, it's so easy for us to just get funding because everyone can just throw something in at that point.
My reporting has indicated to me was that there was a payday as well. By the way, as you say, multiple reasons to get into business, but the question of, right, cap circumvention and what an owner has a responsibility to know, doesn't it feel like it's his responsibility to know if the partner that he's gotten into bed with, that's on the jersey patch, on the seats, all over the building, has this side deal? Like, isn't that part of his oversight responsibilities as the owner of the team to do the due diligence?
How is he going to know?
How is it? But what? How would he not know? Like, that's the logic here. It's like you're sort of presuming that these guys hid it from him. And what I'm saying is that 7 sources told me, including the documentation, that everybody knew about it. And this is the question I have.
All your sources are inside the scam company.
Oh, but these are people who are the victims. If there are any victims in the story, it's people who thought.
The people who work there always are the victims of the scam company.
Yes, who thought we're trying to do good. We're the climate change people. We're like true believers about carbon offsets, which is sad.
And they got scammed just as badly as everybody else.
And their question
was, but that makes my point. That makes my point, Pablo, that the scammers
But why
have to
would
scam
this,
it.
but you're saying the scammers are really good at scamming. Why would the scammers tell 7 people at least, and I'm told it was dozens who are aware of this, that Steve Ballmer and cap circumvention is the reason we can't talk about this?
No, I get your point again. But on the flip side, if I want to shut everybody up, hey, we're saving the world. But in order to get this $50 million investment, in order for us to be able to get the value of the sponsorship, I'm going to lie to you and tell you I did this deal that Steve Ballmer's making us do these things, right? Everybody who works for us, stay focused.
What? Mark, do you? Why? What? Why would that be the lie? That's not even a good lie. I'm gonna lie. I am scamming, and I'm trying to pull this off. And for y'all to just shut up and not say anything, my lie is me doing something else that I'm not supposed to be doing. That's the lie. That makes no sense. He's saying that the smart scammers couldn't craft up a better lie. Effectively, what Mark Cuban is now saying is that these smart scammers that are very legitimate, that were able to scam all these other people, couldn't craft up a good enough lie to their employees outside of, instead of us committing a scam, we're committing an NBA cap space scam. That's basically, is that this nigga's argument? That it was just a lie to just shut them up? And what a very convenient lie. I'm the information you're telling me, oh well, they probably just told them that just so they can shut them up. So they just formulated a lie. Bro, Mark is bugging, bro.
Don't talk to anybody about this, because if you do, that can make the whole thing fall apart.
But I feel like
I'm giving you the reason why you can't talk about it.
I feel like you're the greatest defense attorney for 2 scammers in terms of just like
no,
their
I've
thinking.
been scammed. That's why I know I've been scammed.
But Mark, I want to square the circle, as I keep on saying, like a cliche, unfortunately, of like how these guys can be smart enough to pull something off, but stupid enough to tell. Truly, in my reporting, so many people inside the company.
No, but see, you're missing the point.
No, because
how else do you get them to shut up? How else do you get them to shut up, and stay focused?
Just do some fake. Just go actually spend the money in some capacity to fake some fucking plants. What are we talking about? How do you shut them? You shut them up by just doing something. Go fake some plant treeing, go buy some land, do something to make them feel like some of this money is going towards somewhere. Make some progress, because at some point you would have to do that anyway. If the objective of the scam is to then go public to where everybody gets paid off who invested in the beginning, and then you can pull out as the stock starts to continue to rise up and up and up, the way that at some point you would have to start planting fucking trees, dog. So to get them to shut the fuck up, just buy some fucking land and start planting trees. But you're telling me to cover up one scam, the lie that they had to give them is that we're doing another scam? Like, Mark, do you hear yourself? Does this nigga hear himself? Bro. So y'all saying that they planted some trees. I'm talking about just go plant more. Make it seem as if like you're doing what you're doing. Go do the thing. If you want to shut them up, if you want to remove the questions behind it, especially because with the $50 million that was given to you, you weren't supposed to give all of that money out at once. That's not what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to give out $7 million quarterly. So yeah, that's all you do.
But I think there are 2 choices. It's how else do you get them to shut up? But also, if we tell them a lie that it directly indicts the guy we're trying to keep out of the news, you've given them the recipe to tell a reporter in September of 2025.
How many of them know how the NBA CBA works?
Dude, it's not, the whole notion of cap circumvention is not especially complicated as a concept.
It's not. It's easy. It's
exactly.
Easy.
So the whole idea of like, the reason it's a secret is because we're paying Kawhi outside the cap.
If you hadn't told me Uncle Dennis was the one to make the call, I would have been more likely to believe that Steve was at fault.
Wait a minute. So let's dig in on that. So why is that?
Because if Steve knew And the minute he found out that this was falling apart and these guys were a scam, he'd say, let me invest some more money so you can pay off Kawhi so this whole thing goes away.
This part is mind-blowing to me because now Mark Cuban is getting on the record saying they should have just committed money laundering. This right here is fucking blowing my mind. And maybe I'm missing something here, but Mark Cuban is effectively now saying that they're so deep in this one scam that we need to commit other fucking scams to cover this one scam. Like, I don't understand what this nigga is talking about.
And there's no evidence of it any longer. Invest some more money so you can pay off Kawhi so this whole thing goes away. And there's no evidence of it any longer. And let's just erase all this from the books. You don't leave this outstanding debt out there. And particularly once you see that they're on a path to going broke and, you know, potentially you understand enough, and I think we've all had enough experiences with bankruptcies, that those creditors are going to become public. And because that's where you got the story, right? And so that's, you know, the whole due diligence, smart enough to know, right? It applies to that as well. He's leaving himself so wide open in a way that he's going to be smart enough not to be if he's truly breaking the rules. If Ballmer was involved and he just immediately squared the circle, to use your term, the minute things went sour, he's a fucking moron.
You're saying save Aspiration personally to prevent bankruptcy, to prevent all of this stuff.
That's one option. Or invest more money, right? And just tell them to pay off Kawhi. Because it would have made no sense to do this on an annual basis. It would have made a lot more sense to pay it off, put it away. Nobody knows any better.
But that's not what they did. But that's what they did, though. They paid him on an annual basis. They were paying him quarterly, $7 million annually. They were doing that. And also, bro, saying that you should just put money into a company that's about to go bankrupt, that is also a fraudulent company, unless he's saying that he doesn't know that they're fraudulent, and unless this nigga is saying that Balmer needs to know just enough to know that they're going bankrupt, but not enough to know that it's potentially fraudulent, to then put the money into the company to cover the fraudulent activity that he did in the company, but still doesn't comprehend that the company at large is fraudulent. So then it doesn't become money laundering.
Question I would ask you though, would your calculation?
Yeah, but you're saying to the person saying stop it from going bankrupt. If you are investing money to a company that you know is fraudulent, and you're using that money to passively give it to someone else through a company that is money laundering. You are laundering money. You're washing the money with some other money to try to make it look like it's clean and then spitting it out somewhere else for somebody else to take because you can't give them the money directly because it will be against some violation law or whatever. That is money laundering. So to expect him to say maybe
of throwing
put it away, nobody knows any better.
The question I would ask you though, would your calculation of throwing another $50 million after your original $50 million change if you became perhaps suspicious, if not aware, that one of these men was going to be pleading guilty to wire fraud?
He knows he's fucked at that point,
yeah,
right?
I agree.
If he knows they're committing to wire fraud, he knows they're fucked. So I'm doing everything possible. I'm going to Uncle Dennis and I'm saying, check written. Well, that's the next question, right? As a correspondent and an investigative journalist from Indiana University Powell School of Journalism, right? Why wouldn't Balmer just go, or a representative thereof, just go to Uncle Dennis and say, Uncle Dennis, forget those guys. Here's $30 million for you to get aspiration amnesia and just make this go away.
Oh, you want SEC style? You want SEC?
Well, no, SEC's already investigating. He already knows.
No, sorry, I meant Southeastern Conference football style.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
booster paper bag. But that's what you're saying is directly pay Uncle Dennis.
Yeah, I mean, look. It's risk reward.
Well, and to be fair, I don't know why that. And I'll be honest with you, that is actually the best question of them all. That is actually a very legitimate question to why, if you genuinely wanted to just do this, why not just give the money in some capacity to Uncle Dennis? I guess my rebuttal after that would be Uncle Dennis had already made the block hot back in 2019, so everybody's going to be looking. So if you were to give money to Uncle Dennis, at that point, people would then acknowledge, okay, you're still doing the thing that we were already investigating back in 2019. So if this ever came out, then we would immediately know. So this right here would be able to get around people potentially knowing that you are already connected to Uncle Dennis in some capacity, while still giving it to Kawhi, but just doing it through another business. But that is actually, I guess I think that is actually a really quality question. But the problem is that Uncle Dennis just kept fucking yapping so much that everybody just became wary of who he was as a character in this whole scheme.
If he was dumb enough to go down this path in the first place, at that point, he's got to keep on digging.
Yeah. I mean, look, logically, now we're completely in agreement. I think some dumb shit happened after some dumb shit happened. I mean, that's my suspicion.
Yeah, all suspicion, right? All allegations, right? But I just don't think that he's just going to, you know what? Let's just see where it goes and may the chips fall where they may.
But I think that the chips falling almost happened behind closed doors that no one saw. The question of, was there going to be someone who was obsessed with bankruptcy filing documents like me who would go through the trouble?
You're giving yourself, you get credit for doing it, but you're giving yourself too much credit.
No. But the point is, why didn't anybody else find it? I'm not saying that I'm great. I'm just saying that nobody else found it.
So one of us has got to be right. One of us is wrong, right? Either team Balmer.
I'm team Bricks once again.
Okay, so team Bricks or team Balmer, right? I just think if it's team Balmer, he didn't know, and all this is going on, and that's why there was no response. You're saying that it's all falling apart anyways, and everybody's Bricks, and they're going to do nothing.
I think they didn't have moves to make with Aspiration because
I'll say because the moves are already done. They've already made the moves. If while it's falling, it's also being found out that it's fraudulent, there's nothing else that you can really do at that point. Because if it's a failing company that's fraudulent and you then continue to involve yourself with a fraudulent company that you're now aware of, nigga, you are now a part of the fraud. That's why you don't do anything.
There's criminal activity that has now been...
Yes.
And they're going to do nothing.
I think they didn't have moves to make with Aspiration because there was criminal activity that has now been revealed in DOJ and SEC investigations.
Remember what I just said, right? It's Uncle Dennis, right? Or
So with moves to make with Aspiration. So let's just put Aspiration to the side. So the question is, what timeline are we living? I believe we're in a timeline in which Steve Ballmer knew, according to the reporting, the 7 sources plus the documents that provide the context, that Steve Ballmer...
But all those sources and all those documents are internal to Aspiration only, correct?
And I believe that they are the most credible people for the reasons I said.
No, it's the exact opposite.
No.
Exact opposite.
If I were to tell you that the questions about why does this deal exist preceded 2022, would that change your level of belief in Team Bricks?
No, because it doesn't.
Why?
Provide any confirmation that Steve knew anything.
But it happened before there was a need to spin.
So, like I said, the scammers, Uncle Dennis goes to the scammers and says, not knowing they're scammers at the time, say, hey, you just signed this $300 million deal with the Clippers. Who's the best player on the Clippers? Who represents the Clippers the best? Who's going to be here long after they're gone? Work with me. Let's do a deal with Kawhi. And if Kawhi's going to play, whatever. He's not going to show up and hug trees. He's not going to show up and talk about.
He's not going to do anything.
Offset.
Literally anything. He's not going to hit a fave on Twitter.
Yep. Which he doesn't do a lot of anyway, but that's beside the point. That Uncle Dennis is negotiating. That's still not proof that Ballmer knew.
But Mark, what I'm saying is the reason.
But then because Mark doesn't know this now, but then he would have to acknowledge that if Uncle Dennis went to them directly to try to figure out, hey, what can we get a deal, and it will be very lucrative of you to do this deal because you already have ties with the Clippers, and let's set this deal out. Mark doesn't know this, but now it's been revealed that Ballmer is the one who introduced Kawhi to them, that they requested from Ballmer to be introduced to Kawhi. So unless we're now saying in a fucking 3-dimensional, this 4D chess is being played, that Uncle Dennis went to Aspirations and told Aspirations, hey, if you want to make as much money and legitimize the company even further and try to get somebody behind it and get a little bit of access that you're actually not going to get, but you'll get a player, a part of the Clippers, you need to work for us. And instead of Aspirations just working alongside Uncle Dennis, they then further the 4-dimensional chess and say, okay, let's do that, but let's make it look legitimate. So then let me go ask Steve Ballmer to introduce us to Kawhi. Like, bro, I'm like, there's like, the gymnastics that we're now doing is fucking crazy.
I trust these people is because when I interviewed them and I asked them about this bankruptcy filing, this LLC, they said immediately, oh, it's for this reason. And then I said, can we prove it? And they said, yeah, there's a document. And I said, can I have the document? They said to me, here it is.
The contract,
the $28 million contract in which none of the jobs were contractually obligated in terms of deliverables on the KPIs. The KPIs were just play for the Clippers, which again, established. The point being that their knowledge of this and their providing of it was substantiated by documentation, emails, bank statements, other sources, 7 of them, 7.
None of which connect Steve Ballmer.
But they all connect Steve Ballmer. They say it was cap circumvention at the direction of the most important investor in our company who put $50 million in.
Who did that email come from?
Wait, which email?
The one saying this was at the direction of, it's cap circumvention at the direction of them.
That was what they were told. They were not stupid enough to put it in emails.
Okay, so who told them? Was it Sandberg?
When I say it was common knowledge at the company, I think there are 2 ways to see it. One is, wow, the scammers perpetrated a plan that was so deliberate that it handcuffed people from going to anybody and saying anything because they needed to protect Steve Ballmer. And that's why they were, zip, can't talk about it, right? The other thing that's possible here, though, is that these guys ran a scam that was so messy that it got shot down within 2 years, 3 years if generous. And they didn't really consider that.
I don't think that they are aware of the other information that just came out saying that they actually did go around high-ranking executives in the company to make sure that the contract went through without nobody actually going through it.
And that, like,
but that still doesn't implicate Steve Ballmer.
But it does. But really, now we're talking about is the credibility of the 7 people I spoke to, plus the documentation they provided.
No, it really comes down to the credibility of the people who told them.
But the point is that when they say this, in the light of day, it all adds up with reality. And what they said is not, you know what, we were lied to. This is the only thing that makes sense. It's the only thing.
I get that too. It does. It's the only thing that makes sense.
It's the Occam's razor, Mark.
Not even close. Not even close.
You're suggesting, look, what you're suggesting here is that these scammers made it so that they were smart enough to tell these rank and file employees that, hey, don't tell anybody because it's Balmer. But they were stupid enough to not realize that one day they would actually tell me, a journalist, exactly what they were told.
Every Ponzi scheme falls apart at some point, right? Every single one of them. Madoff went for how many years? And all those people who worked for him, all of them, down to the computer programmers who programmed the false statements that got sent out to the owner of the Mets at the time, right? And all the other victims that they had. Right. Everybody has to fall in line. They don't all think they're working for a scammer. A couple of them know, but they're all told that Bernie Madoff is making 15% a year, risk-free. So to you had people in the Bernie Madoff case, to go back to how your logic, who are smart investors, including, people who are some of the, at the time, biggest investors with the most money, right? Course. And they got scammed, right? Unknowingly, they trusted people. Maybe maybe Bill Clinton told Steve Ballmer, right, that these guys are legit. So I'll tell you a quick story. Right? There's a guy that I competed with 40 years ago with my company, Micro Solutions. This guy was good, really, really good, great technologist. He contacts me 30 years later, and he says, I'm putting together this company. I do some due diligence, but I trusted him, just at best trusted him. All a scam. Now, in this case, I lost $8 million, right? I'd done basic due diligence, but it was underpinned on the trust and the references that I got. I had no idea. And all this technology stuff, he would tell me I had to deal with this company and this company and this company. And his employees believed him. His family believed him. I believed him. So when I keep on going back and say some scammers may be good, but all Ponzi schemes fail at some point. And when those Ponzi schemes start to falter, that's when things start to come to light. And again, I haven't heard anything that takes me off of Team Balmer. I think that, there's a lot of uncertainty. I just don't see it.
But this is really where I'm driving to, because what I presented you with is an owner who wants to win very badly, just like you did. An owner who has so much more money to spend than he's allowed to spend, which is pretty unique to him. Not that you're not very wealthy, Mark, and not that
I hear you. It's okay.
You made it rain.
He's got a lot more money than me,
Those padded seats courtside was
right.
I got
it done, baby.
Incredible thing. But what I'm saying, though, is that
nobody else put microphones on the rims until me.
You're a pioneer. A pioneer.
Yes. In the rim world, I'm in the Hall of Fame.
Oh, God. What is that?
Take that back. I can say that. Cut that out.
That's a massive pause. Massive pause.
We digress. I've given you this story of an owner who is those things, who also in 2015 went head-to-head with you for DeAndre Jordan.
And got fined.
$250,000 for trying to arrange a side endorsement deal with Lexus and was told you can't do that. And so now 2019 comes around and all these other owners in the NBA at the Board of Governors meeting, which you said you attended, are saying, this Uncle Dennis guy, who you personally have experienced, pleading with you, give me some stuff, right? That guy...
it wasn't quite like that, but he contacted us.
Okay, okay, fair. But the point being that there was an investigation by the league specifically around side deals, endorsement side deals that resulted in the changing of the rules, right?
Yeah.
And so that's 2019. And so then we get to 2021, and Steve Ballmer, right, having acquired Kawhi Leonard, needs to figure out in this extension that he signs Kawhi Leonard to, and this is, I think, a key detail that maybe we've sort of underplayed. He signs Kawhi Leonard to a deal that was mysterious at the time to the people who had no idea about the story, but were just covering it from an NBA perspective. Neither the shortest nor the longest extension available. He signed a deal that was convenient to the Clippers, 4 years, $176.3 million in 2021.
How much was that short of the max? How much was that short of the max?
It was a max. It was just that he restrained the ceiling on available money because he didn't go as long or as short as he could have. And so the question then is...
But he didn't really give up any money. He gave up optionality.
Optionality to align his contract with Paul George's with the Clippers, right? Which is something that was very helpful, as covered, by the way, at the time. Mark,
okay.
I mean, but you know,
but there's no equivalency.
He signed
it's not like he gave up $7 million.
Kawhi Leonard wanted maximum money at all times. But the point being is, that same time, this guy who had previously gotten in trouble in the way with DeAndre Jordan, head-to-head with you, and also was investigated by the NBA for specifically this reason, has this deal with a sponsor who says to him, you know what, we should give you $300 million as your founding partner of this arena. And also, guess what, Steve? You should give us 50 of your own. And simultaneous to that, in this timeline, 2021 fall.
I get.
But I'm just saying, you are sort of contorting this.
But why 28? Why 28 million?
It's just, by the way, less than 50, which you put in. Like the sources inside of Aspiration.
Why 7 million a year? Why 7 million a year?
By the way, fair market value when it comes to cap circumvention, you mentioned that this is bigger than Joe Smith, unprecedented in that way. It's because it's a big number. It's like, why? Why would they do that?
Oh, no. Cap circumvention doesn't matter about the number. It's just that you do it. The number is irrelevant. It's just the fact that you would do it.
But okay, so in that regard, when Steve Ballmer tried to sign DeAndre Jordan to that deal and got fined $250, doesn't that feel like an important detail when calculating, are you team Ballmer or are you team bricks?
Yeah, but I would take the other side saying you learn really quick, right? And the NBA, when they fine you to $250, so the process as an expert in being fined, there's negotiations that go on and there's discussions that go on. And you talk to the NBA general counsel and they lay it out to you exactly what the risk factors are. And they're not shy to say, if you do this again, the circumstances will be far worse.
So what if...
And let me remind you of this again. And they will remind you
totally
over and over and over again. So I look at that as, hey, that was the warning. And that increased the risk profile for doing this even more.
So what if there was a way, though, where you could sign some...
So the niggas is saying he learned... This is the one thing it blows me away with certain people is that when people learn more information that they didn't know before, because Mark Cuban is wanting us to believe that he forgot about this and he needed to jog his memory on it. He just completely forgot about it. I'm now providing you more information. And and this is very valid and relevant information to what's happening. And instead of that, potentially pivoting and changing your stance on this, you've now just found another excuse for information that you originally didn't even fucking know about. You didn't know about this before. You made a stance. You learned new information that is relevant to the opposition of the argument. And instead of you saying, well, maybe that could be a point, you then further yourself on the stance by just making an excuse for information that you didn't know before. That makes no sense.
To an endorsement deal in which no one ever had to know about it.
No NBA owner is dumb enough to think that, at least I don't think so.
But he did it already against you for DeAndre Jordan.
I get that. And he hopefully learned his lesson.
Why would you assume that
this... God, Mark! Bro, all right, I ain't gonna hold you, bro. This nigga's actually pissing me off. Again, you didn't know about this 20, 30 minutes ago. Now, all of a sudden, he learned his lesson. Bro, this nigga Mark, bro, come on. Bro, come on.
Man who, in the face of all the evidence I've given you, Mark, as I assess team bricks
but I tell you, in the face of all the evidence I've given you on the party he is dealing with.
I dare say that you provided zero evidence and more just logic based on how you would have done things. And you seem to have this perspective that is so conveniently generous to the 6th or 7th richest guy in the world.
Yes.
But
and not the reality of how this story has unfolded.
Thank you. What's this?
Saturday college kickoff.
Right? You think all those people, well, there's a market. You can see what they did. They sold everything that they could, right, to liquidate, but they reacted. You don't think, you think
oh,
he just did nothing?
But I think they also hit.
What do you think when FTX hit, right? What do you think all those people, well, there's a market. You can see what they did. They sold everything that they could, right, to liquidate, but they reacted. You don't think you think he
Oh,
just
they
did
but
nothing?
but I think they also hid. They also hoped nothing would happen.
Yeah, but see, okay, that's the thing right there. They hoped nothing would happen. That's where we vehemently disagree. You think they hoped nothing would happen, and they did nothing, crossed their fingers, crossed their toes, right? Said a prayer and said, "Please, Lord, let none of this come out until Pablo finds it." I just don't see that happening.
I think what happened was, in the timeline that we outlined per my reporting, at a certain point it becomes obvious Aspiration can't pay its bills.
Yeah.
And at that point, you're beginning to worry, right? You're saying, oh
Right.
no.
Team their pants, right?
Bricks. They bricks even.
Yeah.
And then what happens is you realize or begin to deduce, maybe you do some due diligence now finally about like, wait a minute, what are we in here? And this is generous to Steve Ballmer because it indicates that he wasn't aware of the scam, right? So I'm just taking this as face value. Just like in this timeline, what he's doing is realizing the government is looming. The investigations are coming. Criminality is afoot.
We saw that in 2024.
Exactly. And at that point, what you do with Aspiration is a question you're going to have to answer to the federal government. And so you're not going to put in, as you suggested before, $50 extra million.
No, that's where we disagree. Yeah, that's where we disagree.
You think you would put in extra $50 million and give it to a criminal?
Whoa! Mark has lost his mind. Nah, Mark has lost his mind. Nigga! What is Mark saying? So he is talking about money laundering. You're talking about money laundering? Wait, am I missing something?
Million is a question you're going to have to... Exactly. And at that point, what you do with Aspiration is a question you're going to have to answer to the federal government.
Yes.
And so you're not going to put in, as you suggested before, $50 extra million.
No, that's where we disagree. Yeah, that's where we disagree.
You think you would put in extra $50 million and give...
Ooh, Mark, you said that. Whoa. Whoa. What? Whoa. 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 Bro, Mark Cuban is full on talking about money laundering. Mark, whoa. Whoa, Mark. That's why this nigga face like, are you sure you're saying what you're saying?
Suggested before, $50 extra million is a question you're going to have to answer to the federal government. And so you're not going to put in, as you suggested before, $50 extra million.
No, that's where we disagree. Yeah, that's where we disagree.
You think you would put in extra $50 million and give it to a criminal?
Well, at that point in time, he's probably because.
Oh no! Mark. Turn this off! Mark! No! No, 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 no. No, 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 Mark. Turn this nigga, no. Absolutely not. What are you wondering about? Oh, Mark. No. Is this nigga snitching on himself? Bro.
He doesn't know.
To a criminal.
Well, that's what we disagree.
You think you would put in extra $50 million and give it to a criminal?
Well, at that point in time, he's probably because he doesn't know for sure. There's been many companies. So, okay.
When do you treat Steve Ballmer like a really smart adult? When is that going to happen, Mark?
No, I just know my experiences, right? Having invested in companies.
Are you treating him like Mr. Magoo? I'm like, this guy.
No, you have never been through this. I have.
Oh, you haven't been through this? I have? Bro, turn this. No. Mark, no. Holy shit. No. Yeah, Raquel. I just don't think someone of his status would be this dumb. Here you are in the middle of trying to justify money laundering and talking about your experiences. I am.
No.
You have never been through this.
Are you treating him like Mr. Magoo? I'm like, this guy.
No, you have never been through this. I have.
No.
You have never been through this.
Oh, I have not, but at a certain point, when you realize your bills aren't getting paid and you realize that the government is looming.
Well, you don't know in 2022 or 2023, you don't know the government's looming.
To 2024.
Let me give you my experiences, Pablo.
It's just, yeah, please.
Okay, so I've had companies where I believe in the company and weren't operated the right way, change the CEO, right? Give them more money. Some have worked, some haven't worked. That's just the way it goes, right? And so haven't paid their bills. I get the calls because I'm the rich guy behind them. I had another one of my scams, right? The two big ones where I got scammed. He's selling shares in the company saying you're gonna get paid back. And I have no idea, right? The guy ended up going to jail. I covered all of those things. So when he made all these lied to all these companies and took money from them, I made them whole, right? That because I just felt that was the right thing to do. But I still got scammed. And when I found out, I had the choice of giving them more money to keep them alive, which I did because I felt bad for the employees, and I paid off the people who got scammed on the outside. He does have that choice. He could have put more money in.
Bro, but Mark, Mark Cuban, please. You are talking about, and be very mindful, this is you have established in this podcast that with this company, he's not that directly connected. That he just has somebody else looking at due diligence, signing shit and moving onwards. He's not so directly connected that he knows how much he would need to give to make sure everyone is whole. And making sure everyone is whole, from people who are outside investors to the employees, is uniquely different from making sure that Kawhi is the only one who's whole so he can be wiped off the fucking books. Those are two different things. Bro, this is fucking ridiculous. This is crazy. This is ridiculous. I ain't gonna lie, Mark, you've lost me. You've lost me on this one. You lost me. You have lost me.
Now, come January of 2024, probably not. Right? Probably at that point in time, maybe a little earlier, because they probably contacted him. And even then, they said that the team was not under any investigation. But at that point in time, don't you think he would try to cover all his bases and tie up any loose ends in any way he could?
If I thought that I'd given $50 million to a guy you were at least vaguely concerned was going to go to jail, I would not.
But he's not thinking you're going to jail in 2022, 2023.
But when the radar starts blinking, right, as one of literally
January
Ballmer,
2024, let's just say November of 2023.
Let's say that for now.
Bro, Mark, this world that you're building, that's why I said earlier, he wants this nigga Balmer to know just enough that they're not paying bills and they're potentially floundering. And also, while knowing that, making sure that but then being able to think far ahead enough that if they file for bankruptcy, I want to cover my own tracks. So I'm going to give them just enough to cover my tracks for the payment, but not know enough of what's going on to have some antennas going off that it's a scam, that this is a fraudulent company. It's the right sweet spot. Like the amount of mental gymnastics that he's doing right now is that he doesn't know anything. He doesn't give a fuck. He signs it, 300 million my way, 50 million their way. Bada boom, bada bang. I didn't walk away, never really care. Eventually, it comes to my table that they're not paying the bills, that they're potentially going to file for bankruptcy, and that's where my research stops. I don't look any further. I don't look into what the fuck is going on. I don't ask any questions. I stop at they're not paying us, and they're potentially filing for bankruptcy. Why all of this is happening, I don't care. I stop there, and then I tell myself just flippantly, oh, I'm just gonna give them more money. Really? Bro, no. I ain't gonna lie, chat. I went into this very optimistically, but no. No, bro. No. He should know enough of when they stop making payments, how much do they need, and they're about to file bankruptcy, how much do they need to not file bankruptcy, and also how much other people around me and in the company their employees need to make sure that they get taken care of for when this happens. But I don't need to research and find out that it's a scam. I don't do any more research to figure out why they lost money, why they're not able to pay their bill. Like, what?
And what I'm saying is, if you're Steve Ballmer, and again, I am not you or Steve Ballmer, and I really need to express that as well, because I'm not the guy who was called the greatest investor of the last 20 years, as Steve Ballmer has been because of what he did with Microsoft.
You're using that as a way to justify your position.
No, but it's a part of his expertise to know that when the bills aren't getting paid, what's happening. And you would get
that's a big part of your argument, Pablo. That doesn't hold up.
But you're
right?
but I get that.
So Pablo,
I get you're saying
so
that
if he's
there's
worth $100 billion, if he's worth $100 billion, what? Let's just say it was $50 billion back then, and so it's 1% of his net worth.
But Mark, what if it was the company you agreed to put on your jersey? Once you suspect it's happening to you, do you
No way you just shrugged at that. Come on, Mark. Come on, man. Come on. Come on, Mark.
Your head in the ground, or do you try to be preemptive to protect your own team, which, as you said, is the most important thing, multi-billion-dollar asset?
And so who's the linchpin? And this whole scam, from the Clippers' perspective, who is the linchpin in everything?
Steve Ballmer.
It's either Steve Ballmer or in the most generous world that you can possibly imagine, maybe Kawhi's uncle. Maybe Kawhi's uncle is the one that's pushing this the entire time. But at some capacity, Steve Ballmer has to also be on board. So even if you don't think that Ballmer is the linchpin, and it's Uncle Dennis still needs to present why or how much money needs to be given to Kawhi in some fashion. So it's not, he still has to know. Even if he's probably going to say Uncle Dennis.
Steve Ballmer put in $50 million, got out 300, is said by 7 sources to have been the reason. There's documentation, there are emails, he's doing business development for this company.
Uncle Dennis is the linchpin. He's the fulcrum. So
and that could be true. That could be true. But that doesn't then absolve any knowledge that is given to Steve Ballmer, though. That's the point.
If you really have your franchise at risk, and you know this guy, and according to you, he knew about this. He knew about the 28 million. And at this point in time, there's only 7 million left to go. You know, you have Uncle Dennis saying, where's the rest of my money? Don't you just take care of it because it's a de minimis amount relative to the risk?
Not if, and this is, I want to read Bloomberg here, Mark, because I want to give some of the reporting that had been done before me some credit here. This is what they say. By early 2022, Aspiration accountants had uncovered a series of payments that sent a wave of panic through the company's executive suite. And they go on to outline the ways in which, quote, some Aspiration staffers worried that a company official might be orchestrating fake transactions to inflate its numbers. Staffers were digging into the company. The sources, in fact, that I spoke to, these are the people that I trust.
The times I told you I was scammed, when I asked for reports from the CEOs of those companies, the scammers, you think they told me the truth?
What I'm saying, though, is that here are a number of people in the finance department who were, in fact, the reason why Aspiration was revealed to be the scam. The people you're saying might have been lied to by the scammers are the ones who caught the scammers.
Thank you.
Right.
Let's just do the hypothetical here, because we're not going to...
Thank you. Bro, the niggas that were inside are the ones who are also raising the questions, which is why in your hypothetical, they have to now lie to them, and the lie that they decided to use that we're not scamming this way, we're just scamming another way. But the people inside are also asking the questions. So the people inside are also cooperating with the feds. So the people inside would have to have the proper information that would point in that direction for the feds to go after the people and have enough evidence to force them to plead guilty. Oh, boy.
You're not going to budge off of Team Balmer, and I'm not going to budge off of my reporting.
That's what makes the market.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's great.
Yeah.
But if, in fact, my reporting proves out to be correct,
and he knows, then it's go Mavs. Great. This is great. You know, it's in all my personal interest.
What about, though, the Clippers front office, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is, if, in fact, someone had to know from the Clippers, right? It wasn't binary. It wasn't no one from the Clippers knew.
No, there's a good chance that it'd be only the owner at that point in time.
Okay.
Lawrence Frank.
I also agree with. There's a possibility that it could just be one or two people at the top that knows, because effectively only one or two people at Aspiration knew this. So I can understand that.
Has been through it forever. If he did tell Lawrence and the assistant GMs, they're too. Their careers are toast. Absolute toast. And there's a 99% chance that at some point it comes out, as they try to protect their career. That's one. Two, the agent is going to be in deep as well if it ever comes out. And the agent has got to be involved at some level. And so the agent, I don't know what other clients they have, if any, but they're too. And so you've got a multi-billion-dollar franchise at risk. You've got the general manager's job. You've got the agent's job. You've got Uncle Dennis, who has no leverage whatsoever.
Well, he has the relationship with the most important person in this entire story.
Yeah,
right.
And so does every parent, and so does every uncle, and so does every friend.
But Mark, you know that Uncle Dennis
he also knows, and Balmer also knows that A, Balmer is under a microscope for 2015, and B, Uncle Dennis is under a microscope as well.
But now I just want to fill in the reality, not to interrupt because I don't want to be rude, but like Uncle Dennis was, of course, subject of the investigation in 2019, and so what he's doing now, in reality, of course, is literally be the designated rep on a deal for Kawhi Leonard for $28 million. That is at the very least something that has now, by the way, did you see the Shams thing that just came out as we were talking?
No.
The NBA is investigating.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, but the point is that that's because Uncle Dennis had this deal. So the question of Uncle Dennis, should he know better? Clearly, he didn't know better enough.
I got no problem with Uncle Dennis. Uncle Dennis is the smart one in all of this.
I think mileage varies on that scouting report, but I take it at face value as well. He's doing.
Well, no, look, Uncle Dennis, who has no leverage anywhere, shape, or form.
But Mark,
right?
You know that the leverage is in the player. The player is the scarcest commodity here, right?
They are and they aren't, right? Because the home team has the edge. It's rare, unless
I feel like you're trying to give a pep talk to Steve Ballmer in 2021.
No, I don't give a one way or the other.
But
I hope I'm wrong. The Mavs part of me hopes I'm wrong.
But I understand your point of view.
The former owner and the logic and everything I've dealt with as a business person, investor, entrepreneur, and owner tells me you're wrong.
But it's because you can't imagine personally doing this.
No, it's not even that. I look at it, it's just math, right? I look at the math and the leverage, and I don't see the value proposition anywhere. Your whole premise is based on the fact that Kawhi Leonard will take advice from Uncle Dennis and do effectively whatever is in the interest more of Uncle Dennis than of Kawhi.
Well, but hold on, but that part, right? We know Kawhi Leonard is a frugal person. He wants to maximize his earnings, saves every penny, gas guzzler. So legendary in that regard. So
makes him lovable.
By the way, he's a capitalist. Kawhi Leonard wants to get paid. Kawhi Leonard to me
not
is
nearly as bad. Look, I don't know Uncle Dennis really at all, and so all this is me presumption and allegations and all this.
He won't answer my call, so I'm just going based on what I'm just saying, the reporting is.
Uncle Dennis is the winner in all of this because the CBA rules don't apply to him, at all. Right? Whatever he can go in and negotiate is money in his pocket that he did not have yesterday.
So now you're team Uncle Dennis now.
I'm team Uncle Dennis is the smartest one in all of this. Let me ask you.
I'm not mad at that either because he's absolutely right. He's not a legal agent. He's not a player or owner. He has literally nothing. Like there's no connection to what Uncle Dennis is, at least from a legal standpoint and what he has to abide by.
Question: is it conceivable that Uncle Dennis played a stronger hand and basically bluffed and said, "I control Kawhi"? And I've heard this from many different relatives, friends, except this is my boy. I grew up with him, right? I raised him, whatever it may be, and he overplays it, and he goes to Aspiration. He says, I'm going to get him out of here, and unless you pay me $28 million, and your whole sponsorship ain't worth it.
I believe that it's even likelier that
Bro, Mark, okay, I'm done watching this. I'm done watching. Mark Cuban is just making up scenarios now. I'm done. You're trying to make up new scenarios on top of different scenarios to try to justify what you're saying. You're losing me, dog. You're losing me. At the end of the day, bro, this shit is crazy. I can't believe Mark Cuban actively said that shit, but it's some of the most ridiculous shit I've ever heard in my life. Okay, well, all right, because it's basically 10 minutes long. So
deal happens, but with the blessing of the team that has a $300 million deal with the company that agrees to it.
No.
But Mark, but again, the reason I say that is because I have done all the reporting. I'm not just saying that as a guess.
But your whole reporting, Pablo, you get credit. You picked up a needle in a haystack, right? You found a needle in a haystack and you turned it into something real.
So you should know here that I talked to Mark Cuban for 3 hours, a meandering and often circular, 2 hours and about 45 minutes, actually, entirely about this subject, which is both incredible and enjoyable, almost perversely, but also undoubtedly my fault as the interviewer. And so this conversation, to be very clear, as all our conversations are on Pablo Torre Finds Out, has been cut down for length and clarity. Because at one point, in fact, Mark Cuban and I were so immersed in said conversation that his phone battery died mid-sentence and his connection completely dropped out, which made us worried for obvious reasons. But then Cuban jumped back on the line and we picked right back up with a question.
It comes down to who initiated that contract. Was it the agent and Uncle Dennis is just trying to collect? Was it the Clippers and they're just huge idiots? Or was it Uncle Dennis acting on his own, freelancing? I would bet on option 3.
I guess what I'm saying is 2 things. The ultimate leverage in the NBA historically has been...
there's information he's missing because Ballmer's just now admitted that he made the introduction. So unless Uncle Dennis is doing like 3-dimensional chess here or 4-dimensional chess, but Uncle Dennis, if he's working on his own, he wouldn't have to do those things. They can just break off a deal on their own. So there's literally information he's missing. So there's that.
And a superstar threatening to leave a place in which you can extract and exchange all sorts of stuff. Now, typically, when we say that, it's within the legal bounds of the CBA, right? Mm-hmm. The Kawhi Leonard story since 2019 has been cap circumvention. That's the allegation.
No. There was a story. The story is not the same as the facts.
No, but the story of Kawhi Leonard and this investigation by the NBA, as alleged by your colleagues in the NBA who dealt with him personally, was that this guy is coming to us asking for shares of ownership and more even pressingly, these side endorsement deals, these sweeteners that are off the books.
No, I get what he asked for. There's a lot, and I'm telling you, Pablo, that happens all the time. It's just like this guy asked for ownership, and that's what made it ridiculous.
What I would return to, though, as an NBA fan and a journalist.
Man, this nigga is saying a lot of shit, man. This nigga just said that shit happen all the time, man. Man, shut the fuck up, nigga. Oh, my God.
Is the actual timeline of Steve Ballmer owning the Clippers, right? So he wanted the cornerstone, the franchise superstar of a caliber that was going to do the thing that no one had done for the Clippers, which was compete actually with the Lakers. And so the guy who emerges in 2019, fresh off a championship, who looks like, by the way, when healthy, the greatest player in the league as a two-way concern, right? That's Kawhi Leonard's actual legend as a basketball player. He's incredible.
When healthy is a big if.
No question. But in 2019, he just won the title and he was healthy, and Steve Ballmer had the opportunity to do the rarest of things, right? Get a free agent franchise player in his prime, which does not happen.
And how did he do that? And what did he give up to do that?
He gave up everything.
5 number ones, was it? Was it 5 number ones?
It was Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was not...
Shai, we didn't know was Shai, right?
In fairness. But basically, and this is, I think, the point I want to drive at, and you just took me there. He did whatever Kawhi Leonard's camp was saying he had to do. That was the story of that offseason, you recall, right? He wanted Paul George.
So if what you're saying is that wasn't enough, and he'd go to any length to do anything, but only for Kawhi, I'm not going down that road.
Oh, no. I'm saying that he clearly knew the importance, because he's an NBA fan, of how you need a true number one superstar to contend.
Yeah, for sure.
And he got the guy, and he gave him, in reality, whatever was requested by the camp, Paul George, draft picks, all that stuff, he made it happen, right? Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Danilo Gallinari, 5 first-rounders, your memory's good, plus 2 pick swaps going to OKC, right? At the time, this was all very clearly, Kawhi wanted to make this happen, and Steve Ballmer was happy to do it.
Yeah, yep.
Absolutely. And so the question then is, given that kind of mindset, hyper-competitive, by the way...
I get your point, right? But also... Stop? I get your point. Where do you stop, right? I get it.
Exactly. And what I'm saying is, the reason I keep on going back to your experience with DeAndre Jordan to 2019 to 2021 is because it's
pattern
all
of behavior. I get the pattern
of behavior.
I get
and you're suggesting that at some point he got scared straight by 2019, despite the fact that he got what he wanted, and for some reason stopped acting like that.
If the catalyst is Uncle Dennis, I couldn't think of anything dumber, right? Because you're going to the very person that required Board of Governor meetings and follow-ups to send a message. This is not applicable. This is a problem. And I get your point.
You're desperate. You're desperate to keep this player.
I just don't think it was a binary set of circumstances like that. I just don't see it. Like I said before, I think it's far more likely that Uncle Dennis was the catalyst with the crooks. And I just don't think you can just presume that everything with Aspiration, the crooked company, is the equivalent of a legit company.
Mark, I don't think I could possibly convince you any better than I've tried repeatedly.
And vice versa. To me, it's so point blank obvious that, look, both of us could be wrong. Neither of us, one of us could be right. We'll find out over time. I just can't see him like going in that direction. I just don't.
Mark Cuban, part owner of the Dallas Mavericks, which is a conversation I want to get to, but we never got to it because, of course, this happened. 27% owner of the Dallas Mavericks. Mr. 27%. I think I've said all I can possibly say. And for that reason, Mark Cuban, I am out.
I was waiting for you to say it.
I just had to say it.
This was a lot of fun. It really was.
Mark, thank you very much, sincerely.
Appreciate it, Pablo. Really do.
So this is where I just got to tell you that this conversation, this investigation, this episode even, is not over yet. Because, of course, it isn't. On Thursday, the morning after Mark Cuban and I really enjoyed the conversation you just heard, journalist John Corrales at Boston Sports Journal happened to drop a bombshell of his own. A bombshell which we here at Pablo Torre Finds Out have now confirmed. New doors have swung open on quite a bit of new information that we continue to report here. But in this case, you may recall how often we discussed Steve Ballmer's $50 million personal investment into Aspiration, and also the undisclosed no-show 4-year endorsement deal that Kawhi Leonard signed for $28 million, which, while it's multiples bigger than the market rate for NBA player sponsorship deals, even among superstars, I am told, $28 million is a lot smaller than $50 million, as discussed. But I'm just saying, you are sort of contorting this.
But why 28? Why 28 million?
It's just, by the way, less than 50, which you put in? Like the sources inside of Aspiration.
Why 7 million a year? Why 7 million a year?
Well, according to this reporting by the Boston Sports Journal, quote, the $28 million deal was not the only compensation Leonard received. According to a high-level source, Leonard also cut a side deal with Aspiration to receive an additional $20 million in company stock. The stock was to be paid out from Sandberg's personal holdings in the company over 4 years. That brought the total of promised compensation to Leonard to $48 million. Around the same time as the Leonard deal, Aspiration was going through its rounds of fundraising, which included a $50 million investment from Balmer. That investment has been characterized to Boston Sports Journal as having been made with light to no diligence. Think of it as getting a commitment on Shark Tank after only a couple of questions. End quote.
That's a crazy quote at the end.
So, in other words, Kawhi's updated and completely undisclosed compensation from the company Ballmer put $50 million into would be $48 million. Now, I swear that I did not plant that Shark Tank reference or seed that scoop or do anything like that with the Boston Sports Journal. It is simply one hell of a job by them. But what I did do was email Mark Cuban for his reaction to the updated math. And what Cuban highlighted for me was a couple of other key statements in the article, how the stock was to be paid out from Sandberg's personal holdings, specifically in the company, and also about the, quote, rogue behavior of co-founders Joe Sandberg and Andre Cherny, the guy who would sign Kawhi's $28 million contract, which was in the episode we did before. But Cuban's last line to me was about that Shark Tank reference. Quote, and I've said yes to Shark Tank deals after the pitch, with no questions, other than the price. Smiley face, end quote.
I just like, again, it does not matter. It does not matter what gets brought to his attention. You asked, why was it only 48 instead of 50? 28 instead of 50. We then realized it actually was fucking 50. So then it's like, what are we doing? Also, nigga, 10 million? 10 million people are watching this. And that's not including all the other YouTubers who are streaming it as well.
Missing your team's games on Sunday? Not an option. So whether you're a pick up an afternoon shift fan or just a...
I guess I'm gonna let y'all go and watch the game, man. can't believe niggas is trying to argue with me about if that's a good thing or not. Like, nigga. Briefly.
So my question to you, you have made comments saying that you would never wife someone who has a child with someone in the league. So my question to you is, like, what inspired you to feel that way?
What comments are you specifically talking about?
I think you're talking about when he said that he wouldn't wife somebody that was already
that had talked to an athlete.
Yeah.
I feel like if you've dated like publicly like a player, it would be hard just because of it would be tough dating someone's old girl and they just always have that like over you. It takes a very understanding person to want to take on that role when you're going into life with a woman who has a child. It's something that I've always thought I would steer away from. Could be like an ego thing or like a
insecurity thing.
I don't know. It could be. I'm open to change. I'm not stuck in my ways.
No, I don't know who the second girl is. This girl, I don't know who this is. Lonzo's baby mama? Oh, man. They're trying to convince this nigga to give them another chance. Come on, dog. Oh, man, that shit is so fucking shameless. And the fact that this nigga is sitting down and interacting with them is fucking ridiculous. Is that a snippet or is that episode actually out? Yeah, that's basically tryouts. You believe it's out? Yeah, then they called him insecure, Raquel. Maybe you're just insecure. Like, they're shaming this nigga for having requirements in his dating life that they may not abide by. It's his preference. And then bringing up legitimate concerns about why I would not do it just for Brittany Renner to then further validate his concerns by acting like a fucking moron. What a numbskull. Like, you literally prove the evidence. You
What's up, everybody?
You let people know that, like, hey, this is the reason. You are literally what you just did is the actual reason to why I probably wouldn't want to interact with people like you. I would not want to be in relationships with women like you. You actively let me know that. Ah, man. I don't see the episode, so I don't think it's out. I don't think that it's out. All right, chat. What a stream. Mark Cuban basically letting things go. Ant is apparently streaming the game on playback. So if you are on playback and you want to go continue with the community, go over to Ant's room.
Buddy talking about Iceman. Ain't nobody waiting for no Iceman to drop. They waiting for the Spider. Shit, fuck around and call the whole Spider-Man.
You tell me that's not going platinum first week if we drop it?
Bro, that's not touching 100K first week, bro.
That's not dropping 100K?
No.
Oh, Drake this?
Bro, everybody coming at Drake, bro. No,
exactly.
Yeah,
that could be true. I mean, shit, I got him talking shit about Beyonce.
Ooh, Beehive is strong.
Yeah, Outkast, Chris Brown.
Oh, let me hear the Chris Brown one.
CB need to worry about Genuine, because that's the discussion they having. They talking about CB or Genuine. Which one y'all picking? CB or Genuine? I got Genuine, personally.
Chris Brown and Genuine? That's what niggas talking about?
I really don't know. I don't think so, though.
But that could go gold in the streets, though. That sounds
random as fuck.
That's what I'm saying.
It's random.
Hey, bookmark that.
Tupac.
this, Tupac? Tupac. Play that. I got you.
So see, what niggas not understanding is that Tupac shit was fake. He just an actor. He wasn't really with the gangster shit. He was just bald headed.
Man, that nigga just saying shit, bro. Nigga, everything Tupac talked about was being a thug. What you mean?
Ooh, I got one that's gonna go diamond.
Man, shut up. Come on.
I got one that's gonna go
Niggas can't just say they gonna go diamond. What you mean?
Yeah,
we're not here to make jokes, Mark.
I ain't gonna say nothing too much. I ain't gonna say too
Everybody can name a Michael Jackson song, but who Michael Jackson put on?
No, wait. Jump that right now. Like,
You can't name one person Michael Jackson put on. Who? Goddamn Chris Tucker? Come on now. Ain't nobody watching no Chris Tucker no more. That was back in the days, Rush Hour. That's the last time we seen Chris Tucker. I'm telling you right now, the Jackson 5, nobody checking for the Jackson 5. They checking for the Atlanta 3. Me, Wham, and Savage.
oh my God.
You know what's so funny? I remember when the Kendrick shit came out. When the Kendrick shit came out, him dissing Kendrick, niggas was like, ooh. They were like, they were trying to like, see, Drake was on it. See, there's nothing wrong with Drake and Atlanta rappers. See, Kendrick just yapping. And it come to find out, this nigga Young Thug is just on the phone hating on everybody. Nigga just talking shit about everybody. He just talking shit about everybody. Cole, 3,000, like nigga just doing whatever the fuck it takes to just get some weird shit off. Yeah, he just hating on everybody. Like a weird nigga. But all right, chat. Like I said, Ant is in the stream. He's out there watching the game if you want to watch it with him. Continue to be a part of the community. I'm not reacting to that because I already saw that, and the whole conversation is a fake one. They're not gonna make Shay go back to the Clippers. Yeah, come on. Let me repost Ant shit real quick. Don't somebody got Ants? Which one here?
Word. This nigga keep on running, bro. You know damn well you.
There you go. No, it's free. If it's streaming on YouTube for free, I don't think that there will be a problem. If I'm not mistaken, it's streaming on YouTube for free. Yeah, you don't need to have any subscription or anything like that. It's just on YouTube for free. So yeah. So all right, chat.